This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now for August.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Secretariat on the rail. Champagne Charlie on the outside, an eighth of a mile to the finish. Secretariat on the inside in front by half a length. Champagne Charlie second, 70 yards to the finish. It's Secretariat now in front.
Top of the lane, it's Violence in front. On the outside, Orb comes after him. Majestic Hussar is at the rail. Orb runs by Violence. Orb has taken the lead. And Orb on the outside has won the Bassilow Stables Fountain of Youth.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
And it's Authentic, who's still very strong on the front end. And he pulls away with authority. Authentic is undefeated as he will romp in the San Felipe, a very easy 2.5 lengths.
Sir Dudley Diggs is thundering down the middle of the course. Aim for red, it's hanging tough. Tiny Cooper is trying desperately. Sir Dudley Diggs on the right hand right. It's Sir Dudley Diggs, the Lord Samuels, 3 feet.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. It is post time for the show that launched a network, the Equine Forum, all presented by TwinSpires and all right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, bearing in the backstretch. Happy to have you along for the ride again this morning, right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius 216, XM 204, affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website at horseracingradio.net or wherever you are accessing your podcast. Well, this past week has certainly given us more than a few significant news items that are going to have an impact on our sport, not just this year, but for years to come. On Monday, the Pollock Report posted an article citing that Daily Racing Form's Dave Grenning had confirmed that trainer Rick Dutrow has been granted a trainer's license from the New York State Gaming Commission. Remember Rick Dutrow? That's, by the way, an organization which was replaced by the New York, which in essence replaced the New York Racing and Wagering Board, which was responsible for handing Rick Dutrow a 10-year suspension, which was served and came to an end at midnight on January 17th. Now, prior to being suspended, Dutrow had saddled 1,811 winners, which included 3 Breeders' Cup wins and victories in the 2008 Kentucky Derby and Preakness with Big Brown. What impact will Dutrow's return have on the sport in the months and the years ahead? And how long is it going to take Rick Dutrow to get back up to speed, to have 50, 60, 70, 100 horses in his barn? How long will it take him to build up his business? And will the owners that were with him before, are many of those owners going to come back? That's one question I'm going to bring up with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer at 10:30 Eastern. On Tuesday, the Hall of Fame announced this year's nominees. The list includes 9 horses, 6 trainers, and 1 jockey, that being Corey Nakatani. Those finding themselves on the ballot for the first time this year are trainers Kieran McLaughlin and John Sadler, along with Arrowgate, California Chrome, Lady Eli, and Songbird. My first reaction when I hear the names of all 4 of those horses I just mentioned is that they've all had Hall of Fame careers. That's without even looking back on their resumes. But I also felt like Rags to Riches and Game On Dude deserved to have their Hall of Fame plaques last year, and they find themselves back on the ballot here in 2023. So maybe I'm just a bit more lenient than some of the other voters. Now, in order to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, here's how it works. And I do have a vote. Here's how it works. You have to receive 50% of the vote plus 1. So majority approval. You can vote for every single horse and every single person that is nominated if you want to. But in order for somebody or a horse to get into the Hall of Fame, they have to get 50% of the vote plus one. The inductees are going to be announced on Tuesday, April 25th, so we'll get a chance to find out if indeed all four of those horses make it in. But at first glance, I think all four should be in the Hall of Fame this year. First ballot Hall of Famers, in my opinion. On Thursday, the news came out about the death of yet another young jockey, Alex Canchari, who at the age of 29 took his own life. And that news comes just 50 days after the death of 23-year-old Avery Wisman, who also committed suicide. Ironically, my wife and I just watched the movie Concussion this past week. And if you've never seen the movie, it stars Will Smith, Alec Baldwin, Albert Brooks, and so many others. But it came out in 2015, and for some reason, we never saw it until this week. And maybe there's a reason for that. The movie focuses on the tragic deaths of Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Fame center Mike Webster, fellow Steeler Justin Strelzik, and so many other NFL players who suffered from brain injuries caused by concussions during their playing careers. That discovery led to what is now known as CTE, which is a brain injury believed to be linked to head trauma and blows to the head. And that discovery was the beginning of significant changes in NFL rules and the protocols, which are in place today in an effort to protect players and hopefully diminish the long-term health effects of playing the game. Now, we don't know whether Avery or Alex were suffering from CTE and the effects of concussions potentially sustained during their riding careers. But we do know that mental health issues caused by concussions are real. And the similarities of their stories and what was happening in the NFL before Dr. Bennett Omalu, who, by the way, Will Smith's character in the movie, he did a fantastic job. The similarities before Dr. Omalu began researching head trauma in athletes in 2002, those similarities to these stories should not be overlooked, and it needs to be talked about. Concussions should not be ignored, and they shouldn't be lumped in with just any other injury which a jockey sustains that causes them to miss time. And I'm planning to bring you several conversations over the coming weeks, focusing on racing's protocols when it comes to riders sustaining concussions and head injuries. How are they diagnosed? Are they properly diagnosed? Is that being done day in and day out in our sport? And I'm not just talking about the men and women who are getting on the horses in the afternoons and you see their names in the programs. How about exercise riders? How often do we hear about an exercise rider going down in the mornings? It happens, and probably more than you know. Any type of an impact like that can cause head trauma. Do we have the infrastructure in place at every racetrack in America to be able to accurately diagnose and do it correctly, significant head injury, and keep that rider from going back out there for the rest of his or her mounts? Is that protocol, that infrastructure in place at every racetrack? I don't think it is. Now, the subject has been talked about at various conferences that I have attended and various panels which I have moderated. But has there been any real change? And isn't that the case with so many things in racing? We spend so much time at conferences and panels and conventions and all these different things that we put together to bring the industry into the same room to talk about different things. But does anything really change? We can talk about things. We're the best at that. We're really good at talking about different issues. But I've always said there isn't a whole lot of significant change that comes from those panels and those conversations and those conferences. In today's NFL, if a player sustains what appears to be a significant hit to their head, they are immediately taken out of the game. They're put into the blue tent on the sideline where an on-site doctor examines them. And if there is any sign of head trauma, they're taken out of the game. That's it. And they're placed into a concussion protocol, which could last a week, maybe more, until they are cleared by that doctor and the neurosurgeons to come back onto the field and play. One significant difference between jockeys and NFL players, and it is significant, is the fact that if jockeys aren't riding, they aren't getting paid. They're not making a living. They're not feeding their families. There's no contract with a team to ensure that they have income coming in during their injury, which means that most jockeys are not going to willingly divulge information, which could lead to them being taken off their mounts, no matter how severe the effects of that head injury may be. You've heard stories on this show before of jockeys that have a spill early in the card. They still have mounts to ride. They go back out there, and they don't even remember riding the horses that they were on later in the card. That ain't normal. And it needs to be addressed. Is it time for racing to have a highly qualified on-site neurologist at every track and a protocol that says every rider needs to be thoroughly examined immediately after a potential head trauma may have occurred? Again, I haven't seen any information stating that Avery Wisman or Alex Canchari were suffering from CTE. We don't know that. But two young athletes in their 20s taking their own lives in the span of 50 days better be a wake-up call for our industry. And I'll give you one more thing to think about on this Saturday morning. As an industry, we spend a lot of time, and I mean a lot of time and energy, fighting amongst ourselves on issues like medication and HISA and simulcast rights and all these different things we hear about in the headlines. Have we taken our eye off the ball when it comes to taking care of the human beings that are involved in racing? Jockeys and trainers who, if they don't win, if they don't continue to grind every single day in this game, they're not putting food on the table. That's a lot of pressure in its own self. Forget about concussions. That's a lot of pressure. Now, I'm going to talk with plenty of experts on this show in the coming weeks, but if you want a candid, real-life account of what life can be like for a jockey outside of the concussion conversation, what other mental health issues can potentially come into play, go back and listen to my interview with journeyman jockey Vernon Bush, which was done on this program just a few weeks ago. It's posted right now on our homepage at horseracingradio.net. Vernon was extremely honest in discussing the things that he has overcome in his life, the challenges that he has faced with addictions, and some of the things that he's had to go through, and then the realities that many jockeys face throughout their careers. It's a subject that better be talked about, and there better be real change in our sport when it comes to the human athletes and the human beings that are involved in the sport of thoroughbred racing. Again, we'll have more conversation on that in the coming weeks. Dean Springer is going to kick off the show with me coming up in just about 5 minutes after our first commercial break. It's a loaded show. Every segment full with guests for you here this morning, as it typically is. Dean is the track caller at Garrison Savannah in Barbados. The Barbados Gold Cup, one of the really neat international events on the racing calendar, is taking place this afternoon after a couple of years on the shelf with COVID protocols. But Dean is going to join me to talk about this year's race. Should be a fun interview in just a few minutes. You're going to hear from trainer Michael McCarthy as he gets set to send out a slew of horses later today. He has Lugan Knight in the Gotham. He has Genius Jimmy in the San Felipe. Those his 2 3-year-old colts. He has There Goes Harvard in the Big Cap, and then Spanning the Globe in the Santa Isabel tomorrow. That 3-year-old filly taking a shot with her to see if she can get on the road to the Kentucky Oaks. So Michael will be here at 8:35 Eastern. 9 o'clock, Brian Nadeau will join me from Gulfstream Park. He's the handicapper there. He'll walk through a loaded Fountain of Youth Day program. 9:20, Unsung Heroes. I welcome Tammy Fox to the program. I think you're really going to like this. Longtime life partner with Dale Romans. She's an unsung hero just for putting up with Dale Romans, right? that automatically qualifies her as maybe the best choice for an unsung hero that we've ever had here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. But Tammy's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to hearing her story and hearing what it's like to work alongside somebody she's extremely close with in Dale, and that should be fun at 9:20. 9:40, Mike Willman, the Director of Publicity at Santa Anita, will be with me to talk about Big Cap and San Felipe and all the great races taking place there this afternoon. And at 10 o'clock, Vance Hanson with your TwinSpires Triple Play. 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history. And at 10:30, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin will both be here for this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. Here's the poll question for this morning. You can go to @HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, or you can email the show to let me know your thoughts. Who will win today's Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream? Going to keep it real simple. We'll give you the 2-year-old champion Forte, making his 3-year-old debut, or someone else. And if you choose someone else, please make sure that you comment and let us know which other horse you think will upset Forte in the Fountain of Youth later today. So who will win today's Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream, Forte or someone else? At HRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook are ways you can comment, and you can also participate by emailing the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. Going to take you to Barbados next. We'll talk Barbados Gold Cup with Dean Springer, the announcer at Garrison Savannah. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Airdrie Stud is proud to announce the arrival of Grade 1 winning millionaire Happy Saver for the 2023 season. Happy Saver boasts one of the most important female families of the century, as his third dam is Broodmare of the Year Weekend Surprise, dam of the legendary AP Indy. Undefeated in his first 5 starts, Happy Saver capped off his perfect 4-for-4 season with an emphatic victory in the historic Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
And Happy Saver stays undefeated. He steps up and he wins the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Airdrie Studs, Happy Saver. Think about it.
Attention horse racing fans, don't miss your chance to witness the excitement and adrenaline of live horse racing. Come out to Laurel Park and experience the thrill of victory Friday through Sunday. Don't miss out on 5 thrilling stakes races with a total of $450,000 in purses on Saturday, March 18th that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Mark your calendars and join us at Laurel Park for an unforgettable day at the races. Gates open at 11 a.m. See you at the track.
There's plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the championship meet with live racing Wednesday through Sunday. Don't miss the Triple Crown prep races, including the Fountain of Youth Stakes on March 4th and the Florida Derby Saturday, April 1st. Enjoy the races outdoors from the Carousel Club, our Feast in 10 Palms, offering a premium view of the races. For stake schedules, reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Adina Stallions set the gold standard, all number 1 in their category. Point of entry, the number 1 stallion by black type and greatest stakes winners standing in Canada.
Oh, the classy point of entry would not be denied.
Shaman Ghost, the number 1 second crop sire standing in Canada.
It's Shaman Ghost, an overwhelming force in the last 16th of a mile.
Signature Red, the number 1 stallion by percentage of black type winners standing in Canada.
Signature Red won his second Highlander in a row.
And Silent Name, the number 1 stallion by percentage of black type performers standing in Canada. A list that includes Grade 1 winner Silent Poet.
Silent Poet in front. Admiralty Pier out the ground, but Silent Poet has won the Highlander Stakes.
And don't forget Adina's new sire, American Guru. His first crop are now yearlings of 2023. American Guru, the son of Unbridled Song, whose family have already set their gold standards around the world.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, Presented by TwinSpires.
As they come to the quarter pool, 6-1, 13-2. And it's Major Marvel who is in front, but Sheer Adventures running at him. Lonnie said, "Are you talking to me?" He's hanging on. Normally is coming to the run. Right on the outside, here's Discreet One. And there are no more turns in the Gold Cup. And it's Major Marvel on the left-hand drive. On the outside, here's Normally. Sheer Adventure starts to falter. But you can sing this field a lullaby. They have been put to bed. Major Marvel has won the 2014 Gold Cup. Normally was second. Dashing Devil was third. Close for fourth. In a moment, the unofficial results. Linden Yard, how the gallop out?
That's Dean Springer with the call of the Barbados Gold Cup. Major Marvel getting the victory in 2014. That is one of 3 victories in the race. As a matter of fact, the first of the 3 victories in the race for owner Ken and Sarah Ramsey. And Ken is back this year, taking another swing at it with a couple of entrants trained by Safi Joseph Jr. Safi, a native of Barbados and someone who is known all over the island. He trained a Triple Crown winner in Barbados before coming to the United States. So certainly has plenty of credentials coming into this year's edition of the Barbados Gold Cup. And I'm going to welcome Dean Springer to the program here momentarily. We are working on connecting with Dean in Barbados, and should be a lot of fun. Sing this field a lullaby. I want to ask him about that. That's kind of his signature phrase that he uses in many of his races, and it's kind of what he's become known for. And it's a great day of racing. 10 races slated on that program at Garrison Savannah. The Barbados Gold Cup is going to be run as race number 9, 6:10 p.m. I believe that's local time, so it would be 5:10 p.m. Eastern. They're 1 hour ahead of us. And Dean is indeed with us now. We have made that connection. Dean, good morning. Great to hear your voice, and happy Gold Cup Day.
Hi, good morning. Good to be here.
Really excited to talk some Gold Cup with you. It's been a while because we haven't been able to celebrate the Gold Cup the past couple of years with the COVID situation. How great is it to have the Gold Cup back again?
It's fantastic. A lot of people are really excited. We've got quite a interesting bunch of horses. None that there are at least 2 or 3 of them we know very little about as far as local form goes, and it appears wide open on paper.
Well, it's definitely wide open on paper. I was just referencing the fact that our good friend here from the States, Ken Ramsey, is back taking another swing at trying to get a 4th Gold Cup win. And Safi Joseph Jr., a Barbados native, is back in his home country again. He's not going to be there in person. I was texting with him earlier this week. He won't be there in person, but he sends over both of those horses for Ken and Sarah Ramsey.
Yeah, they're both here. They look absolutely amazing, as expected. They're in quarantine, and they look really good. Saw American Diamond at the airport when he landed. He looked a beast. He looks the part. And Tallahatchie Bridge, when I saw him, well, it was love at first sight.
Yeah, both really pretty horses, and good to see them competing over there. Our good friend Sir David Seal also has a couple of horses entered.
Yeah, he has Brilliant News and Renaissance Frolic. Renaissance Frolic has not raced for quite a while. That might be a question mark. But without a doubt, they both have the class to win the race as well. And, of course, Hopefield has a big local back-end support as well. So, everyone will be paying close attention to them as well.
Who is the most highly regarded of the local runners?
Well, I would have to say So-Off. He came in just before the Coolmore, which he won very impressively with Patrick Husbands up. Patrick is obviously right at Tallahatchie Bridge. So-Off is going to be partnered by Antonio Bishop for trainer John Mark Kozia. He's probably the one of the local horses people are going to pay a lot of attention to. And then there's the one filling the race, which is Vividly. Mm-hmm. She's owned by ex-jockey, ex-trainer Darwin Clark. and trained by Charles Williams. And Charles has had a fantastic start to his career. He's had 4 wins and I think 1 second and a third from his short career, and he's got a horse in the Gold Cup. And I think the whole of the Edgerton posse will be there cheering him on as well.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. As I mentioned, post time for the Sandy Lane Barbados Gold Cup is 6:10. And Dean, correct me if I'm wrong, that is local Barbados time, correct?
Yes, that's local Barbados time. If it runs on time, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit late. With a big card like what we have, things can easily get pushed back a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the first Gold Cup to run under the lights. Really?
Well, that's one thing that I remember from being there and broadcasting a few of them here on HRRN was that, post times, like we used to say here in the States, post times were just kind of a suggestion. Those were the set times, but with all the pomp and circumstance and all the things that go on Gold Cup Day at Garrison Savannah, they usually do run a bit later, maybe even as much as an hour later than scheduled, correct?
Very rarely as late as an hour, but I wouldn't be surprised if you're running, I would say by then half an hour late.
Okay. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I hope not, because it's a long day.
What was your first year calling races at Garrison Savannah?
I think the first time I called a race was around 1990.
Wow.
I'm showing my age now.
It is so much different than calling here in the States. Larry Colmus made the trip over there with us one year and was part of our broadcast team. And I remember that you were kind enough to allow Larry to call a race early in the day. And he was describing it to me as to how much different it was, because the horses run opposite direction of what we run here in the United States. And the turf course is kind of an undulating turf course, kind of up and down, so you almost lose the horses at certain points during the race. From your vantage point up in the booth, describe what it's like calling a race like the Barbados Gold Cup, and let people know about what the course is like.
The Barbados Gold Cup is probably the most challenging race to call. The crowd factor, the first, let's say 100 yards away from the gate, you could hardly see the horses. All you see are heads moving, and that's it. You just see some dots moving. The other thing about the Garrison is that things happen really quickly. The corners come quickly, and then, yes, there's the undulation. We've got to deal with the crowd on the infield as well as the outfield around the outside of the track, and the cars, sunlight reflecting off the cars and blinding you. And then the worst colors are white, because the rails are white, the majority of cars are white, the majority of people on the grounds are wearing white, the jockeys' breeches are white. It's a sea of white. It has its challenges, and not to mention it's the pressure, because it's the Gold Cup, and nobody wants to make a mistake on the biggest show. You want to make sure you pick up that horse that's closing well down the stretch as well. And our stretch is pretty short. So basically we just get enough time to go through the field. And when they turn for home, you've got to be able to just concentrate on maybe 2 horses, 3. I hope you don't miss someone who's wide on the outside or sneaking up the rail. And it's a challenge, It happens. Sometimes you'll miss that one coming up the rail to the last second. But, the thing that people have to remember, and this goes for all commentators, is that there's no dress rehearsal. There's no practice run. It's live. It's 30 miles an hour. And, we're just human.
I'm so glad you painted that picture so perfectly, Dean. By the way, Dean Springer, the announcer at Garrison Savannah in Barbados, joining me to talk about Barbados Gold Cup Day. You painted the picture so beautifully, and I had forgotten about all the cars. Listen, if people have never been there, I'm going to remind our listeners again. put this one on your bucket list. Put it on your calendar for next year. Go to Barbados for the Barbados Gold Cup. It is like nothing you have ever seen before in your life, and it is so cool. It's one of the great international racing trips you could possibly make. And yeah, I forgot about all the cars and the reflection of the sunlight coming off of the windshields. It's so unique, Dean.
Yeah, it has its own challenges. Of course, this Gold Cup has a unique challenge in that we have two horses in here owned by Mr. Ramsey. We have two owned by Sir David Seal, and we have two owned by Mark Goodrich. One of them, It's a Gamble, is a really attractive-looking horse. My good buddy Ted Holder, who trains at Woodbine, organized him coming here and did the quarantine and kept him in, and did the groundwork, getting him ready for the Gold Cup. Of course, he's not the trainer of record, but I'm hoping he'll run a good race as well. So we've got a small field of 9, but 6 horses owned by 3 owners. So it's going to depend heavily on figuring out which jockey has on which colored cap in the post parade.
Wow.
That's the other thing. Because of the crowd in the parade ring, we have no idea which jockeys are wearing what color cap. So we know that one of Ramsey's jockeys is going to wear a red cap, one is going to wear a white cap. But until they get on the horses, because you can't find them in the parade ring, you might not be able to tell which is which unless they get lucky and manage to get them to do what I want them to do before the race. But, we'll wait to see what happens then. And the same goes, of course, for Sir David Steele's too, and Mr. Mark Goodrich's too.
Wow. Well, better you than me, Dean. I don't know how you do it. It's going to be quite a challenge, but you always seem to knock it out of the park. Before I let you go, I do have to ask you about your signature call, which is Sing This Field a Lullaby. Where did that come from?
It just comes up. Some things just pop out, and I just said it one day, and the grandstand liked it. Some people, or most people, seem to like it, and it just stuck with it.
Well, I love it, and we're going to find out which of the entrants in today's Gold Cup will sing the field a lullaby when they cross the finish line shortly after 6:10 Barbados time. That is 5:10 here on the East Coast if you're going to be tuning in. And, Dean, it's always a delight to hear your voice and to catch up and talk about the racing there. Hopefully we get the opportunity to get back there again maybe next year, and we'll get a chance to share a couple Banks beers and hang out and watch the scurries and enjoy a great day of racing.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Hope to see you soon.
All right, my friend. Dean Springer here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. And it is, I'm telling you, if you've never experienced Barbados before, go. Number one, it's a fantastic vacation destination. You couldn't pick a better spot. And you get the opportunity to experience a really unique day of racing. It's the first Saturday in March every year. So circle it on your calendar for next year and make sure you make plans to be there because it's really special. And my thanks to Dean for taking time to be with me here this morning. All right, coming up next, your Legends of the Turf, and then a short break, and we'll come back with trainer Michael McCarthy talking about a slew of runners he's going to send out in big races later today. That's next after your Legends of the Turf.
On September 27, 1947, over a distance of 1 1/4 miles out of the chute at the top of Belmont Park's backstretch, the long-awaited match race between Warren Wright's Armed and the King Ranch's Assault was about to unfold before an enormous throng on hand at the Grand Lady of Long Island as Belmont was off Bamanakered. This was anticipated, expected, and billed to be, rightly so I might add, a classic confrontation of the turf. The two owners, Warren Wright and Robert Kleberg, agreed that the $100,000 prize to go to the eventual victor would be given to charity, and it was a non-betting race. At Belmont, there was a bell which lifted its melancholy clang over the walking ring just before the horses for each race were to be filed out for the post-parade, and just before this match race, it seemed to those in attendance to sound a sadder note than was usually the case. It was as a distant peal that may well have been of the self-same import of which Hemingway wrote, quote, "Ask not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee." A chill, brittle wind howled in from the northeast, bringing the starkness of the foreboding North Atlantic down across the 1,000 miles of ocean from the barren Arctic Circle. One of the horses responded to its sweep against his legs and through his mane and tail as he danced impatiently during the long parade to post for the start in the remote corner of Belmont's back stretch. That self-same wind brought no solace to the other combatant, for he was to run this race on courage alone to fulfill a promise that had been made and was herein to be honored. He was not the same marvelous thoroughbred he had been during a brilliant career on the racetrack. He was somewhat lame and sore, each step bringing a twinge of pain. His heart and mind told him of the task at hand, but his body throbbed in protest. Armed, the great handicap champion older horse, and Assault, the 1946 Triple Crown winner, went to the starting gate. Somehow in the gate, Armed nicked himself on one quarter and left a scratch that scattered blood and a spray on his legs as he ran, but he broke in front as the starter sent them on their way. As the two champions loped down the long run to the far turn, it was Armed by 4 open lengths with still half a mile to run. Assault, under the highly capable, renowned Eddie Arcaro, reached back for an attempt at one of those patented late charges, and through the next 2 furlongs he cut the gap to his rival to but a single length by the time they reached the quarter pole. As they straightened away for the final 2 furlong run to the wire, it appeared to the roaring throng that Assault had put dead even with Armed. That was to be the last hurrah for the Clubfoot Comet, the great King Ranch standard bearer. Assault had given it everything he had, but on this day it was not enough. Arcaro, recognizing a lost cause, eased his mount up in the final 16th, and Armed cruised home a winner by 8 open lengths and a final time of 2:02 and 4. Assault, the club-footed darling of the racing public, had been given it his all, but had for the last time faced the relentless challenge of the racetrack. After the race, while cooling out on the backstretch, his trainer, Max Hirsch, looked at the game champion and with a wistful look in his eyes said, quote, "There's never been another horse like him." An observer who had taken in that dramatic scene turned while leaving to glance back for one final look at Assault, who was standing with his big soft eyes blinking in the autumn twilight, and softly and fondly said, "So long, champ." It was indeed a great moment in thoroughbred racing.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
Sam Houston Race Park's live thoroughbred meet runs through April 8th and features a new afternoon racing schedule for 2023 with racing Friday through Sunday and a first post at 1 p.m. Central. We're looking forward to March 25th, Texas Champions Day. Make it to Sam Houston Race Park as the best in Texas compete in 7 exciting stakes races. The 9 race card starts at 1 p.m. at Houston's Best Bet. Canadian racing fans are invited to play Sam Houston at simulcast outlets throughout Canada and on HPI Bet. For more information, visit shrp.com.
New to Coolmore America for 2023 is Jack Christopher. A son of top sire Munnings and a 3-time Grade 1 winner, Jack Christopher was an 8 3/4 length winner on debut at Saratoga at 2 before winning the Grade 1 Champagne with a whopping 102 buyer. His 3-year-old campaign included wins in the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile, the Grade 1 Woody Stevens by 10 lengths, and the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins. Jack Christopher stands at an introductory fee of $45,000. Call the team at Ashford today to book your mare before he fills up.
This Healthy Horse Tip is brought to you by Kessmark. Spring in Kentucky is beautiful, but allergies can prove to be a real challenge for horses. Pollens and air pathogens can irritate a horse's airway, especially those coming from climates where spring begins much earlier, such as Florida, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Horses coming from the high desert of the West Coast can also have difficulty handling Kentucky's prime allergy season. Mucus, while considered normal by some, is not normal and serves as an incubator for fungus, bacteria, and other pathogens that will make a home in the airway if given the opportunity. keeping an immune system in order, and providing your horse with a clean airway through preventive measures such as feeding on the ground, wetting hay, clean shavings, and nebulizing products can all aid in reducing allergies and keep the immune system healthier to address the important things the body needs, such as athletic recovery. For more healthy horse tips, visit Kessmark.com or follow them on Twitter at Kessmark_equine. That's KESMARC_equine.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
And they're into the stretch. Medina Spirit fights on the outside. Midnight Bourbon. Rombauer is rolling up to them. Coming by the 8th pole. It is now Rombauer storming to the front. Taking over from Midnight Bourbon. Medina Spirit has dropped back. Keep me in mind is 4th. Rombauer and Flavian Pratt win the Preakness. Pulling away by 4 on the wire. Midnight Bourbon was 2nd. Medina Spirit has to settle for 3rd. Keep me in mind was 4th. The final time, 1 minute 53 and 3/5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on this Saturday morning. Mike Penna, Baron of the backstretch. That was Larry Colmus on NBC, a call that Mike McCarthy is never going to forget. Michael has had the opportunity to be part of so many top horses in his career, and Rombauer is certainly one of those. And that day in 2021 when he won the Preakness was certainly special. Michael and I spent many minutes talking about that here on the show, and he's with me now to talk about this year's Derby and Oaks horses that he hopes will get him back to the big dance in early May. Michael, good morning.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we're really excited to hear your thoughts on this year's group. But when you were listening to that call of Rombauer, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, it's always good to hear that. I do remember the first call when he kind of exaggerated the R in Rombauer. I got pretty excited. And then for about the next 3/16 of a mile, it was kind of like an out-of-body experience, just sort of couldn't hear the crowd, couldn't hear anything, just kind of was following my horse and, hit the wire in front. Then it was just like, yeah, it was an incredible experience. Like I said, out-of-body experience, whatever you want to call it. Just a fantastic day.
When a trainer experiences that feeling you just described, does it make you want to get back there even more?
Oh, certainly. I mean, I was lucky enough to do it a handful of times during my tenure at Todd Pletcher's, Super Saver in the Kentucky Derby, Rags to Riches in the Kentucky Oaks, Palace Malice in the Belmont. So, yeah, I think that's any trainer's dream is to go ahead and win a Triple Crown race of some sort. But, yeah, you're always wanting to get back to that stage. That's kind of like where anybody would like to compete, I would imagine,
2 3-year-olds that you're going to send out later today could potentially take you back there. You have Lugan Knight in the Gotham and then Genius Jimmy in the San Felipe. So let's start in the Gotham. Lugan Knight, a bit more accomplished than Genius Jimmy. He's 2 for 4 lifetime, that big win last time out in the Jerome. Tell me a little bit more about him and look back on that win.
Certainly a gutsy performance. I had a couple of questions about him, stretching out to the mile. And his effort before that at Churchill Downs was good. Looks like he kind of got lost there, last 1/8 of a mile, and sort of picked it up again coming to the finish line, and galloped out well that day, running third to 2 other nice horses. His effort, back there in the Jerome was gritty. Made all the running. I thought he broke okay. Dylan did a great job of putting him in the game and staying with him. And, down through the lane, it never really looked like that other horse. You'd hate to be too confident, but it never really looked like the other horse had his measure. It always looked like we were going just a touch better. So certainly a testament to both horses, actually, the horse that was pushing him and Lugan Knight for kind of persevering and running as hard as they did through the lane. It made for quite a horse race. But a lot of questions answered that day. Could he go a mile? Yes. Could he do it in top-class company? Yes. So drawn a little bit farther outside here this afternoon, we'll bounce on out of there, and I'll let Dylan take it from there. But the horse is doing very well.
When you're going through the road to the Kentucky Derby, it can be taxing on some of these young horses because they're in action, in all of these different spots leading up to the Derby, and then they have to be ready to peak on the first Saturday in May, 1.25 miles with a 19-20 horse field. How important is it to have a horse like Lugan Knight that possesses that grittiness, as you described it?
That's a big part of it. There's a lot more than just 1.25 miles that goes into, Derby day. There's the pomp and circumstance. There's a lot of loud music, a lot of noise, a lot going on, all the extra sensory things you think about, my old Kentucky home, everyone's enjoying themselves, so you get the odd cheer or shout out once in a while and stuff like that. And that can sometimes take a lot out of a horse, that especially coming from a place like California where it's quiet. We don't really have that sort of thing here leading up to the races. But I think, a horse that's tactical is especially dangerous at Churchill Downs like him. His pedigree, Golden Sense out of a Spikestown mare, it doesn't shout to you 1.25 miles, but, if jump up and run well later on this afternoon, it's something we'll have to think about.
All of his races have come either in Kentucky or now up in New York. Talk about making that decision to send him through New York trying to get to the Derby.
His owner, George Yeager, had expressed interest in running in Kentucky. We thought maybe this might be the kind of horse that would be a perfect candidate for the Ship and Win, but when he started getting serious and working 5/8, and we thought he'd be just fine to go ahead and compete back there and stay back there and see what he could do. And he's proved us right. Very happy for George. I'm sure he'll make his way to California later on in the year, but for right now, we're happy just being able to compete in some of these bigger dances back there. And if it looks like later this afternoon, if 1.25 miles isn't his type thing, when we've got races like the Pat Day Mile and the Allen Jerkins and things like that later on in spring and summer. So glad we got him started in Kentucky. Glad he's been able to find his way back to New York. Obviously, if you're going to New York at any time, you're obviously doing something right.
Well, you're doing something right if you're competing in some of these big races in California, which you do routinely now, and you have for quite some time. Genius Jimmy in the San Felipe, another 3-year-old, the son of Jimmy Creed. Much different than what we're going to see with Lugan Knight. He makes his stakes debut after breaking his maiden on the grass, moves to the main track. He did debut on the main track in October of last year. Tell me more about him.
Debuted, I believe, going 6.5 furlongs. Certainly something he probably wasn't real comfortable doing, but it was a good starting point. I thought his race was lukewarm, okay, knowing that he probably didn't want to sprint. The mile on the grass, Jimmy Creed out of Medaglia d'Oro seemed like a decent spot to get, to kind of stretch him out. I thought he ran a very good race that day. Just seemed like he was still a little bit immature. Once we put the blinkers on him the other day, he jumped away from there, was prominent throughout, carved out some pretty solid fractions. The race impressed me enough, and the way he trains on the dirt impressed me enough. Gave me the impression that he might handle the dirt in the afternoon. This is the time of year to find out. Getting an allowance race, 2-turn allowance race to go in California this time of the year just isn't going to happen. So this was the obvious spot for us. In California, for sure, it's the best 3-year-old prep of the year, and arguably probably one of the best 3-year-old preps in the country. That and the Gotham as well are probably the 2 best 3-year-old preps we've seen. It's kind of like everyone's come out of the woodwork here this weekend to see where they're at. So if the horse doesn't seem to appreciate the dirt, we've got a very nice turf horse on our hands. But everybody was game to go ahead give this a shot. I'm excited to see what the horse might be able to do.
Hey, Hall of Famers like Wayne Lucas and Nick Zito made a living putting horses in these big races and taking their shot. And Wayne's told me many times, you can't win it if you're not in it, right? So you gotta take your shot and see what you have.
There's certainly some truth to that. Sometimes out here in California, you got to take your shot. You might catch a small field. Obviously, we didn't catch a small field by California standards, but
yeah,
you know, it's better than being on the sidelines. That's for sure.
It certainly is. Michael McCarthy with me here on the Horse Racing Radio Network talking about his contenders and all the big races coming up later today. Those are the 3-year-olds. You'll send out an older horse in the historic Big Cap. That is There Goes Harvard, who is a Grade 1 winner. Very, very talented. Tell me more about There Goes Harvard.
This was kind of our plan all along. We got him ready for the Thunder Road, had a little bit of a muddled trip, and the Thunder Road was stuck behind some horses and then in between horses through the lane here and didn't really get a trip we were looking for. I thought the mile probably was going to be too sharp for him to begin with, but we needed to get him started. I needed to get a race into him to have him ready for something like the Big Cap. Obviously, last year winning the Santa Anita Gold Cup at 1.25 miles, so he's a horse we know that the distance is definitely not going to be an issue. We've had some inclement weather out here. Horses basically haven't done anything for the better part of a week, no workouts or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and lead him on over there, knowing that he likes 1.25 miles. How he may do is anybody's guess. Horse looks well. He's training well. Just wish I had another work into him before this race today.
Yeah, he'll draw the rail. He'll break from post 1. 1.25 miles at Santa Anita, post 1. Probably not the greatest, but what's he have to do to overcome that?
I think going 1.25 miles is a little bit different than going a flat mile. He's got a little bit of tactical speed, so I'd imagine he'd bounce out of there and probably sit in the second flight of horses. I've got a rider who I've got some confidence in, Kazushi Kimura. He's won a bunch of big races in Canada and has held his own here in California this winter. So we'll draw up a game plan, but once the gates open, it's up to him.
You continue on Sunday. Michael, I'll ask you about one more horse before I let you go. That's Spanning the Globe, who goes in the Santa Isabel, maybe trying to get her way to the first Friday in May in the Kentucky Oaks. Tell me a little bit more about Spanning the Globe.
Just going to go ahead and take a shot, take a long look, and see if we actually do run. Tried to get an allowance race to fill, and that just never happened. I ran her in a stake last time on the turf, and had she not run in the stake, it would have been 3 months between races. So a little bit frustrating for a filly like her that's got a little bit of ability, is maybe not a bona fide stakes horse, but with nowhere to run and training bills mounting up, you're better off going ahead and getting a start and seeing where you're at. And she's trained well enough on the dirt. I'd love to go ahead and be able to pick up a piece of it, but some very nice fillies in there, so we'll see.
Michael, you're not the first trainer to come on this program in recent months and talk about that situation in California with allowance races not filling, having to jump in to Grade 1 races or Grade 2 races just to get a race in your horse. What's the solution to that problem, and is there any end in sight?
I think that certainly the easiest solution would be an extra 500 horses in California, but not so easy to procure something like that. California used to be a destination for a lot of East Coast trainers during the winter. We never really see that here anymore. Horse populations are shrinking. Regional breeder programs are shrinking. There's a lot of racetracks throughout the country operating during the winter. Out here in California, we're on an island, so it's a little bit difficult to get to from time to time.
Yeah.
We have no equine transport company per se right now. Tex Sutton is no longer in operation, so we rely on FedEx, and sometimes those plans and logistics aren't really that easy to get from point A to point B, but I think California just needs horses. The racing program here is as good as anywhere in the country. You see it first Saturday in May. You see it Breeders' Cup. You see it all throughout the year, horses picking up from California to go compete in different jurisdictions. We hold our own all the time. But I do believe California is in need of horse flesh.
Well, Michael, I can tell you it's great to see your name in the program of all these big races, and it's great to see you in the winner's circle after many of the big races in our sport, too. So keep it rolling. Always appreciate the visit, especially when you're busy working. Thanks for taking the time, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Michael McCarthy here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Yeah, it's a situation where it's really that simple, right? More horses will allow the races in California to fill much easier. You don't have to skip an allowance race, jump right into a grade 1, and always be running against the nuts, which is typically Bob Baffert. You don't have to do that with more horses. But how do you do that in California? As Michael pointed out, and Dale Romans brought this up a few weeks back when we talked about this topic on I Ask, They Answer, California has always been kind of on an island. And I think one of the biggest issues affecting horse flesh and the numbers in California right now is the fact that you don't have Tex Sutton, the transportation company, to send horses out there more easily. And that's really difficult on connections of horses racing in Southern California. And it's, hopefully it can be rectified in some form or fashion. But right now, it's not a great situation out there for the smaller trainers trying to grind it out and make a living if you don't have those horses that can compete and run well in the top-level races. All right, coming up, I'll get you ready for hour number 2 and bring you this week's edition of Calling All 3-Year-Olds, presented by Spendthrift with Bobby Neuman. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with a crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
And now an important message from Jerry Rice.
As a career wide receiver, I've been hit hard. But no training nor practice prepared us for the devastation of COVID-19. Thankfully, there is hope. Even with multiple vaccines available, we still have to work together until everyone is safe. We all win when we unite to prevent.
For more information, visit unitetoprevent.org.
Hi, this is jockey Brian Hernandez. For me, there's no bigger thrill than crossing the finish line in front, and nobody captures the excitement of our sport like Horse Racing Radio Network. Each week, HRRN brings you exclusive talk shows, podcasts, and in-depth conversations with the biggest names in racing, jockeys, trainers, owners, and more. Plus, HRRN is committed to helping disabled riders through their support of the PDJF. So climb aboard a winner today by visiting horseracingradio.net.
They're all in line. And they're off.
Spendthrift Farm presents Calling All 3-Year-Olds with Bobby Neuman.
The Grade 2 Rebel Stakes was contested at Oaklawn last weekend, and trainer Brad Cox looked to have the race surrounded with the first two betting choices, Verifying and Giant Mischief. But neither of them was a major factor in the stretch, as Longshot Confidence Game had plenty left on the sloppy track to win clear and earn the 50 Kentucky Derby qualifying points. Red Route 1 closed from far back to get up for second. There are 4 big stakes for the 3-year-olds today, with the first 3 offering 50 Derby points to the winners. Let's start with the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream. It's the 2023 debut of last year's 2-year-old champion Forte. He's been working steadily for his return and faces a strong field that includes graded stakes winners Blazing Sevens, General Jim, and Rocket Can, as well as up-and-comer Mage. Santa Anita hosts the Grade 2 San Felipe, and Tim Yakteen's Practical Move looks for his second straight graded stakes win. He takes on temporary stablemate Hijazi, one of the talented 3-year-olds transferred from Bob Baffert, and impressive maiden breaker Go Rocket Ride, among others. Aqueduct is home to today's Grade 3 Gotham Stakes, and a capacity field of 14 will go the one-turn mile. Former Baffert runners Carmel Road and Fort Warren ship east to take on Jerome champ Lugan Knight, the undefeated Recruiter, recent maiden winner Slip Mahoney, and others. Finally, the John Battaglia Memorial is today's feature at Turfway Park. A full field of 12 will compete for the winner's share of the $150,000 purse, as well as 20 Derby points. Next week, we'll look at the marquee event at Tampa Bay Downs, the Grade 2 Tampa Bay Derby. I'll be back with this week's top 5 list right after this word from Spendthrift.
Spendthrift Farm introduces new for 2023 Classic winner Mo Donegal. A leading 2-year-old of his class, Mo Donegal won the Grade 2 Remsen Stakes to close out his juvenile campaign before going on to win the Grade 2 Wood Memorial and Grade 1 Belmont Stakes as a 3-year-old, joining Nyquist as Classic winners by Uncle Mo.
And it will be Mo Donegal to win the Test of the Champion, the Belmont Stakes.
Mo Donegal became the first horse this century to capture New York's prestigious Remsen at 2 and Wood Memorial at 3. Mo Donegal, the newest Classic winner, standing at Spendthrift.
This week's top 5 list of Derby contenders looks like this. Number 5, Go Rocket Ride. Looked great sprinting in his debut and is bred to run longer. We'll find out more in today's San Felipe at Santa Anita. Number 4, Instant Coffee. Looked great winning his last couple starts with an exciting closing kick. Number 3 is Forte. The Breeders' Cup champ is back and running today in the Fountain of Youth. Number 2, Hijazi, high-priced former Baffert trainee, broke through with a fast maiden win. He also goes today in the San Felipe. And number 1, Arabian Night, undefeated former Baffert trainee, is certainly one of the ones off his impressive first 2 starts. Look for him in the Arkansas Derby on April 1st. That's your Calling All 3-Year-Olds segment presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm.
And this morning I asked you in our poll question, who will win today's Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream Park, Forte or other? And if you choose other, please comment with a name. And it looks like 75% of HRRN Nation on the Forte train, the 2-year-old champion getting plenty of votes here. One comment coming in says, Forte looks great, but don't want the chalk, so I'm going to take all 3 into Mischief's boys in this one. That would be General Jim, Rocket Can, and Cyclone Mischief. That comment coming from Chris on Twitter. Chris, appreciate it. Keep the votes and keep the comments coming. You can also participate in that question by emailing the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. All right, that wraps up Hour 1. Hour 2 is next, right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification and your Visit Barbados racing update. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
While the road to the Kentucky Derby continues to heat up with 3 major points races slated for this afternoon, the eyes of the racing world will also be focused on one of the most prestigious events on the Eastern Caribbean horse racing calendar, as the Sandy Lane Barbados Gold Cup is renewed at historic Garrison Savannah in Barbados. Americans are well represented, with Barbados native and Bajan Triple Crown winning trainer Saffie Joseph Jr. sending 2 contenders to his homeland, both racing in the red and white colors of Ken and Sarah Ramsey, who go in search of a 4th Gold Cup victory. In Florida, Champion Forte makes his 3-year-old debut as the 7-5 morning line favorite against 9 rivals in the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth. 11 Derby hopefuls go to the post in today's Grade 2 San Felipe at Santa Anita, a highly productive Derby prep race which has produced 13 winners of the Run for the Roses. The Grade 3 Gotham is the featured event on today's card at Aqueduct, offering 50 Derby points to the winner, while the John Battaglia Memorial at Turfway will see the winner bank 20 points toward a spot in the starting gate on the first Saturday in May. And that's your Visit Barbados Racing Update, brought to you by Barbados Tourism. Learn more at visitbarbados.org.
If you've been waiting to discover that sweet spot where peace of mind meets the time of your life, then it sounds like you've been waiting on Barbados. You've been waiting to experience a meal that makes you book a flight to have it again. You've been waiting for adventure in the sun, from the majesty of horse racing and polo to the thrill of surfing our playful waves. From the moment you set foot on the island, you'll realize Barbados is exactly what you've been waiting for. Visit jetblue.com/Barbados for special vacation packages.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of 3 here on the Equine Forum on this Saturday morning. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch. Happy to have you in the saddle with me. If you missed any portion of the first hour of the program, my interview with Dean Springer from Barbados, talking about today's Barbados Gold Cup at Garrison Savannah, or trainer Michael McCarthy, all you have to do is head back to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can listen to the podcast of the entire show at your leisure. That's horseracingradio.net, and you can listen on every major podcast platform as well. Getting ready for a really loaded last 2 hours of the program here this morning. Brian Nadeau is the handicapper at Gulfstream Park. He's going to join me momentarily to talk about their 14-race program, which includes 9 stakes races. 8 of those are graded, so we'll walk through some of those, including the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth. Unsung Heroes, presented by Woodbine Entertainment, comes up at 9:20. Tammy Fox will be my special guest today, longtime exercise rider for trainer Dale Romans. And at 9:40, Mike Willman, the director of publicity at Santa Anita, will be here to take a look at their stellar program, the Big Cap, the San Felipe, all part of a huge day of racing at the Great Race Place. 10 o'clock Eastern, Vance Hanson joins me with this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20, and at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin. They'll be here to debate many of the sport's hottest topics this weekend. We'll talk about trainer Rick Dutrow. We will talk about the Hall of Fame nominations, and should all 4 horses that appear on the ballot for the first time be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. I think they are all first ballot Hall of Famers. Songbird, Lady Eli, California Chrome, Arrowgate. I think all 4 have had Hall of Fame campaigns, and I think all 4 should get in this year. Whether that happens or not is probably, well, it remains to be seen, but it could be a bit of a long shot too. In order for that to happen, you have to receive 50% of the vote plus 1, a majority approval. Voters can vote for as many horses or individuals nominated as you can vote for all of them if you want to. But in order for a horse or an individual to receive a plaque in the Hall of Fame in Saratoga Springs, they have to receive 50% of the vote plus 1. So we'll see which of those horses get into the Hall of Fame. I would assume that all 4 have a legitimate shot to get in. Well, I told you 14 races on the card at Gulfstream today, 9 stakes, 8 graded. The 14th and final race is the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth. And joining me now live from South Florida is Brian Nadeau to preview some of those big races. Brian, appreciate the time, my friend.
Mikey, always for you, buddy. We really appreciate you having me. It's always fun, and you guys do a heck of a job, so happy to be with you.
Well, right back at you. I appreciate that, and it's always fun to watch you and your analysis. And listen, you got plenty of things to talk about today, but let's start with a couple of really cool wagers. The Coast to Coast Pick 5, which is all graded stakes. You also have a $500,000 late Pick 5 with a guarantee, a $250,000 late Pick 4 with a guarantee. Fill me in on all the special things happening for bettors.
Yeah, you might be able to multiply those guarantees by about 4, Mike. I mean, we probably got 500,000 in already in that Pick 5, so the pools are going to be astronomical today. Wouldn't shock me if they get $2 million in the Pick 5. Wouldn't shock me if they get $1 million in the Pick 4. It's just they're great betting races, all stakes races. As for the Coast to Coast as well, I filmed with Jeremy Plonk and Jeff Siegel, so you can find that on Twitter. A little preview of the Coast to Coast, which is an all stakes Pick 5 today, and that's a good one too. $1 minimum and a 15% takeout. And I know you like to gamble, Mike. That's a good bet for the bettors, the dollar. I mean, I think you can get some nice payoffs at the dollar minimum as opposed to 50 cents. So it's been pretty well received. And, you mentioned power cards both here at Gulfstream Park and certainly out west at our sister track, Santa Anita, on historic Big Cap Day.
Yeah, it should be a fantastic afternoon of thoroughbred racing, coast to coast, literally coast to coast. And then tomorrow, Gulfstream will have a mandatory Pick 6 payout. The estimated pool there is over $6 million, could very easily hit 8 or 9, so that's exciting too.
Yeah, Mike, I would put it at around $10 million. I think that's firmly in play. Of course, we got to get through today's card as well, but I think that's firmly in play. Because they're guaranteeing 1.6 today, which it'll go way over because, again, they might bet $1 million into this thing today. So provided it gets through tomorrow, and it might get, I don't know if you looked or not, it is a monster sequence. Wow, it's a tough sequence, and bettors like that. So, it just bookends the weekend, which is huge here at Gulfstream Park.
Yeah, if I'm going to hit this thing, I don't want to split it with anybody. I just want to be the only ticket.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. I would just be hoping to be alive into the second leg. That's usually my goal when I play multi-race wagers.
Yeah. When I did my thing with Jeremy and Jeff, my late double, which is part in that coast to coast, and those are the last 2 races of the Rainbow tomorrow. My late double was 5 by 6 to give you any kind of indication what kind of sequence it is. So it is difficult, but hopefully everybody listening and playing today can amp up their bankroll on Fountain Youth Day.
And everything today fast and firm?
Yeah, fast and firm and hot, Mike. About 90 degrees here in Hollandale Beach.
Well, should be a good day of racing, and the racing action is hot, too. As I mentioned, race 14 is the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth. Let's make sure we give this race its justice here and spend enough time talking about it. So let's start there, and then with the time remaining, we'll kind of walk back through some of the undercard stakes, Brian. But share your thoughts on the Fountain of Youth. It looks like to be a really solid group.
Yeah, it's a compelling race, and, maybe I'm a little biased, but I don't think we've run a 3-year-old race better this year in the country. I mean, you've got the defending 2-year-old champion in Forte. You've got Blazing Sevens, a Grade 1 winner as a 2-year-old coming back, and he ran relatively well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. You've got the local horse Candyman for Bill Mott, who won the Holy Bull. Now, General Jim is going to come out very likely, so you're going to lose him, the Swale winner. But, again, we've got Rocket Can, the Holy Bull winner, and the 1-2 finishers for Bill Mott as well. And, you've got some lightly raced prospects like Mage is in there, who was so good winning on debut. So, Mike, everything thrown together, I think it brings forth a really, really good group of 3-year-olds and some 3-year-olds that are potentially going places, clearly.
And the wild card, I think Cyclone Mischief for trainer Dale Romans. Dale does a segment with us here in the final segment of the show every week called I Ask, They Answer. And Dale has been bullish on this 3-year-old from the beginning. Ran a huge race on January 8th to win with Allowance Company, and then disappointed, threw in a clunker as the favorite in the Holy Bull. So we'll see if he can rebound and live up to the hype. He's 12-1 on the morning line.
Yeah, the beauty of racing is, you can look at one thing and I can look at the other and have completely – we can look at the same thing and have completely differing opinions. I mean, Cyclone Mischief was so good winning that allowance race 2 back, and you say, oh, well, Litigate came out of that race and won the Davis. Well, he won the Davis with a 76 buyer. That's not scaring anyone. And then Cyclone Mischief was a total no-show. In the Holy Bull, it certainly looks like he's training well. since then, but what are you going to get today? He's got a little Jekyll and Hyde to him. You know, he didn't run that well in the Jockey Club either, and then he comes back and pops. So he's really got to prove it. You know, Mike, you know this. It's kind of put up or shut up time every Saturday in the 3-year-old ranks, because if you run a dud, you're kind of off the train. You know, you can't get to the next stop. So we'll see what we get today. And he's that kind of horse. He's got to bounce back, and he's got to do it in a big way, and he's got to do it in by far the toughest test of his career, because the Holy Bull was a solid enough race. This is night and day different than the Holy Bull.
Yeah, I would agree. And you have the 2-year-old champion Forte. I think we should spend a minute or two talking about him. He certainly deserves it. He comes into his 3-year-old debut as the most accomplished horse in the division so far, and nobody has really separated themselves yet. I know the name Arabian Night keeps being thrown around as the horse that could be the leader in the 3-year-old division right now, but this door is wide open if Forte is good enough to walk through it for him to state his case later today.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, he is the most accomplished, as you said. He's also best. He ran fast as a 2-year-old. And if he comes back running and winning today, you know, he's not only the favorite, Mike, but he is a cut above everybody else, and certainly everybody else, and whoever that might be, has a, you know, world of upside and time to get to Forte. But he would be throwing down a pretty big gauntlet today should he come back to win. And then obviously, and I say that for a couple different reasons, it's a layoff. This is not the end-all, be-all. It's a progression for him, certainly, to what we would hope be the Florida Derby, but obviously the ultimate Kentucky Derby. And if he were to win today and do it impressively, they're all looking up at what would be a pretty big mountain right now.
He handled Blazing Sevens quite easily on a couple of occasions as 2-year-olds when they met. Any chance that Blazing Sevens finds a way to turn the tables on that rival in his 3-year-old debut?
Well, the scary thing, I want to mention it about Forte, but it's a mention for everybody in the field. Now, the Fountain of Youth is run at the short stretch, short finish line race. And Forte did that twice at Keeneland, and it's a little bit of a funky kind of race. You come off that far turn, and that finish line is quick. And you mentioned Dale Romans. I mean, he won this race with Promises Fulfilled, who's, you know, nothing of the sort of a 2-turn horse, but you can get brave in this kind of race. And the fact that Forte has won that kind of race twice at Keeneland, one of them over Blazing Sevens, you know, that's scary for the rest of the field, because Forte doesn't exactly have a running style that screams to love a short stretch finish line kind of race, but he's already done it twice. You know, Blazing Sevens, I think, Mike, the book is still a little bit unknown about him going 2 turns. You know, where is he going to suss out in this kind of division when the distances get longer? He didn't run poorly in the Breeders' Cup, but he certainly didn't run well. And, you know, his claim to fame, I know he aired at Saratoga on debut going 6 furlongs on a fast track, but let's just be honest, his claim to fame was winning kind of a mixed bag champagne in the slop, going a 1-turn mile, and he was flat in the Breeders' Cup, and Forte drilled him pretty good. So he's got to answer the bell. I would think if he's going to get 2 turns, you know, this might be his kind of race. I don't think he has to be as far back as he was in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but you know, Mike, on the whole, I know they're both coming in off layoffs, and I know one would be a much better price than the other, but he's really, to me, looking up at Forte.
Talking with Brian Nadeau here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Brian, an analyst, handicapper at Gulfstream Park, does a tremendous job alongside Ron Nicoletti. What's Ronnie's thoughts on Forte? Does he think he's the horse to beat today?
Yeah, I think so, and I think we all clearly do, Mike. It's tough to get past him, you know, with the body of work, the connections. You've got Todd Pletcher. Irad wins about 5 a day here, it seems. You know, Vinny Viola and Mike Rapoli. I mean, he's the house horse. They've all got to beat him. And, you know, there's no one in the office here that doesn't think he's the most likely winner. Does that mean you have to bet him? Does that mean you have to pick him? No, not at all. But at the end of the day, if we ran this race 10 times, you know, Forte is supposed to win it, you know, 7, 8, maybe you could even argue 9 times.
Yeah, it's a great point you make about winning with a short stretch run, too, like he'll face today in the Fountain of Youth. Maybe advantage Forte there in that category as well. Brian, let me ask you about a couple other races, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw it to you to talk about a couple other races where you think there might be some value for players, a couple other horses you really like on the program today. What might those races be?
Well, I like Mage in the Fountain Youth. I need to give him a quick shout out because I do think the race plays into his style. Is he as good as Forte? Absolutely not, or we don't know that. But, again, short stretch finish line, there's not a lot of speed in the race, Mike, and maybe he gets brave. I think he's clearly going. I expect him to be able to make the lead. Legacy Isle down inside is taking blinkers off. I don't think he's a two-turn horse. So that's one for you. Mage. If you want to lean, I do like undervalued asset quite a bit in the Devona Dale to turn the tables on Red Carpet Ready. I think her upside is just tremendous for Chad Brown, and now she's got a race under her belt. I'm not going to try to beat Charge It. That'd be another kind of single. But again, now back to value. I think English B, Mike, in the Canadian turf is very interesting. Emmanuel, a heavy favorite on the Morning Lion. He was really good for Todd Pletcher winning the Tampa Bay last time, but he did it with Lasix. Lasix comes off today. So that might level the playing field just a little bit on a horse that is going to be a huge, huge favorite in there. Maybe, just maybe, he's a little vulnerable. So I'm going to try English B. And the other horse I want to give out, Mike, is Bobby O, or earlier in the card. I thought he ran sneaky good in his comeback. Dude in Colorado beat him that day, and he's back. But I expect a big move forward from Bobby O, and Mark Casse takes the blinkers off, and that can be a huge angle for him. It is 5 for 10. It's not a big sample, Mike, but that's a huge angle for him. So maybe he can upset that 3-year-old stakes that's earlier in the card, the Colonel Liam. And then the one thing I might say it quietly, Mike, because this is a real throw something at the wall and see if it sticks. But Jimmy Toner has had a monster championship meets, sending out a limited amount of starters. He's got Broadway Boogie, very one. That's the grade 3, race 6. Chad's got some, potential monsters in there. Virginia Joy won the race last year. But Broadway Boogie was just devastatingly good winning here earlier in the meet. She's stepping way up, but she's got a world of upside, and she's going to be a big price. And just maybe you catch the Chad Brown runners off a layoff. Virginia Joy is drawn terribly with the quick bend. They start the race basically on the turn. If you're looking for a bomber, and we, of course, as Ron always likes to say, we've got tries, we've got supers, we've got exactas. If you're looking for a bomber, just maybe Broadway Boogie could blow this thing up a little bit.
All right, there he is. That is Brian Nadeau, and you can catch him and Ron Nicoletti on the simulcast feed at Gulfstream Park. It's a big day. Brian, really appreciate the insight here today. Always fun to catch up, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, Mike, it's always a pleasure. I always appreciate you having me on. And not only can you catch Ron and I, you can catch Ron and I in about 30 minutes because we're going on early today on the pre-race prattle. So looking forward to it. Hopefully everybody is as well, because this is as good as it gets, Mike. Thanks so much.
Great stuff, Brian. Appreciate it. Brian Nadeau here on HRRN. When I come back, it is time for Unsung Heroes. Tammy Fox, longtime exercise rider for her very, very close life partner, Dale Romans. We'll talk about that coming up next. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network, all presented by TwinSpires.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And now a Florida Thoroughbred history moment. Winning the Kentucky Derby and Preakness in 1997, Florida bred Silver Charm showcased just some of the talent coming out of the Ocala breeder sales and Florida. Silver Charm was trained by the McCathan brothers and Bob Baffert, who were only rising stars back then. The Cray gained international acclaim, winning the Dubai World Cup, and later joined the stallion ranks in Japan. This has been a Florida Thoroughbred history moment.
The National HBPA's annual conference is fast approaching, March 6th through the 10th at the Hotel Monteleone in New Orleans' historic French Quarter. Don't miss your chance to attend informative panels hosted by industry experts and a keynote address from Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry. The conference kicks off with a reception on Monday, March 6th, and offers 3 days of panel discussions, presentations, and meetings along with Jeff Landry's keynote speech on Tuesday, March 7th. Attendees will also enjoy an outing at the fairgrounds for racing on Thursday, March 9th. For more information and registration, visit nationalhbpa.com/convention.
Racing fans, make plans to join us for one of the biggest days of the year, Santa Anita Handicap Day, this Saturday. It's an experience you'll never forget, as we'll not only have the 86th running of the Big Cap, presented by Yamava Resort and Casino at 1.25 miles, we'll have 3 other graded stakes, including one of America's most important Derby preps, the $400,000 San Felipe, the Grade 1 Frankie Kilroe Mile, and the Grade 2 Buena Vista. That's all on Saturday, and we'll also have a mandatory payout with an expected total pool of $3 million in our 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 jackpot. Come early. First post time for a 12-race card on Big Cap Day is at 12 noon. Also on Big Cap Day, XP Rewards members will receive a free Santa Anita hat courtesy of Yamava Resort and Casino, and we'll also have a craft beer festival, frontrunner buffet, chandelier room party, and our infield family fun zone. Just east of Pasadena in Arcadia, Santa Anita. It's the great race place.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Heroes in the world of sports are not uncommon, oftentimes thrusting themselves into the limelight through unimaginable feats.
Back behind the ball, Woods puts it.
And in! He has done it! Tiger is back! Tiger is back on top! Tiger Woods, the 2019 Masters champion.
And breathtaking performances.
Here's how you count to 8. 3, 2, 1. And for the 8th time, college basketball's national championship trophy is coming home to Kentucky.
But behind every great hero, there are others. Individuals who play a crucial role in the achievements of those we read about in the headlines. The ultimate team players, content to stand behind the curtain, embracing their place as a vital part of a sport's success. In horse racing, these are the unsung heroes.
This segment is such a favorite of mine every time I get to bring it your way here on the Equine Forum, because I get to recognize grooms and exercise riders and folks who work on the farms and starting gate crew members and people that make our sport a success that you never get to see in the headlines. That's what this segment is all about, and that is certainly the case for my special guest here today, Tammy Fox, longtime life partner with trainer Dale Romans, who you're going to hear in a little while, 10:30 Eastern with I Ask, They Answer. And I thought that in itself, Tammy having to put up with Dale for all of these years makes her maybe the greatest choice for an unsung hero we've ever had here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. So she is with me now, live from Gulfstream Park. Tammy, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. And what you just said might be the truth of it all right there. Being a partner with Dale for 33 years.
Tammy, I have to spend 30 minutes a week with Dale for that segment. You have to spend your entire life with Dale Romans. Some people would say, boy, that's the greatest thing anybody could ever wish for, because he is such a popular figure. So what makes this work? You work with each other, you live with each other, you're the mother to his children. How does this all come together?
Oh, you know, I can just describe it as, you know, the lighthouse that's in the water in the ocean?
Yes.
And that light's always on, and he's in the boat. Well, he has to follow that light to get his way home. That's how I describe him and myself. It's like he likes to stray, and he doesn't know where he is all the time. So when he sees that light, he knows that's home. Follow that light.
So, okay, you were also...
He's a tough character to handle.
Let me tell you something. You have been around a lot of tough characters. You rode races for a lot of years, then started working with Dale. Now you're exercising horses for him. I'm sure that you get on some rogue horses from time to time. What's a bigger challenge, working with some of those young horses or trying to keep Dale in line?
Dale, 100%. He is a tough nut to crack. But
well, listen,
he's so smart. He's probably the smartest person I've ever been around. He can talk to anyone, have a conversation about anything. He knows something about every subject, and every time he he has a conversation with someone about things I've never even heard of, he amazes me.
Yeah, you know he's making half of that stuff up, right?
Well, see, that I don't know that. See, if you don't know what you don't know, right? So I believe it all.
Yeah, no, all kidding aside, Tammy, I mean, it's a wonderful relationship. It has worked for a very long time. And you play such an, Dale's the one in the headlines, right? Dale's the one we see in the program. You're in the winner's circle with him, but it's Dale's name that's in the headlines most of the time. But without you by his side, without you exercising the horses every morning and being around the horses, none of this success happens. So talk about your role in the operation.
Well, I get on probably 4 or 5 horses a day, and I do have a lot of say with the horses that I get on. A lot of times he might not like what I have to say about horses. He seems to like them a little bit, gives them a chance a little bit quicker than I do because I'm getting on him. He's never been on a horse in his life. So that being said, I can come back and say, hey, I think this horse is maybe a $10,000 horse, where he's thinking he's a little bit better. Or I can come back and say, hey, I think we have a nice horse here in our hands. He could be stake quality. But it has a lot to do with me paying more attention to what I'm getting on, knowing the horses every day. It's like my child. I pay attention to them. I can come back and say, hey, this horse is getting sick before he's ever sick. So I play a big role into that aspect of our business. And, like you said, it's our business. So if we're going to make any money, I got to pay attention to what I'm getting on and stuff and give him a lot of feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what I do. This is a sport that you get up every morning. And even before I started riding, I wasn't a good student at school, and I would skip school a lot. And sometimes I'd be in the back of my dad's car going to work. He trained horses, and he didn't even know I was back there. So you get up every morning. You get, like you said, these horses can be some of them are robes, and but you know what you're doing. You know what to expect by these horses, and you got to love what you're doing.
You said that they become like your children. You know them that well. Well, you have wonderful children, and you and Dale have done a great job raising those kids. I can imagine, though, Tammy, being in different locations around the country and traveling all the time and trying to raise a family and trying to operate a big stable the way that you and Dale have done it has to be a huge challenge. How have you been able to do that?
Well, when the kids were little, we decided from the get-go that we weren't going to move the kids around to track and take them out of school. So for until they graduated, Jacob, Bailey, and myself, we stayed in Kentucky, and Dale, for the winter times, he would be in Florida. During the summer, sometimes, because Bailey was a big gymnast, so Jacob would. For the few years, he would go to Saratoga with them, and Bailey and I would still stay in Kentucky. But, it just worked. We made it work. In our business, we've seen a lot of our friends split up and get divorces, and it's just you got to like your partner. You have to respect your partner both ways. It's a grinding sport. It's tough on him. You got to deal with different people and different personalities with owners, and Dale does that well. He has a great relationship with all of his owners and all of our workers that work for us. We consider our workers like family. Most of them have been with us with Dale for 40 years, and since I've been around, over 30 years.
Yeah.
So, it has a lot to do with respect for each other.
Yeah, it takes a village to make it all happen, and, certainly that's the case with your operation, too, and the entire team with Romans Racing. Tammy, when you were riding, you rode, I guess, 236 winners in your career. Do you ever, now that you're getting on horses, was there ever a time that you get the itch, and maybe even still today, to get out and ride some races?
Yes, I have, especially the 2-year-olds that I get on that I like. I'll say to Dale, hey, I want to ride this one. But we both know my career's over with. You know, it did take me a while to get over it. And when we decided that I was going to quit, he always promised me that I would have a horse that I've owned, and he kept that promise for a while. But I need another one, so he's got to step up back to the plate here.
Well, Dale has been very bullish on Cyclone Mischief for months now, and he still is bullish going into today's Fountain of View Stakes. You said that sometimes you have to shoot Dale straight and say, hey, this horse maybe isn't as good as you think. What do you think of Cyclone Mischief? Is he the real deal?
You can't put me on the spot here. You can't do that to me.
Well,
let's just put it this way. We're going to throw that last race out, okay? And we'll play it by ear today. He is a nice horse. He's a nice horse. He's not the best one that I've ever been on in our barn.
Who is the best one you've ever been on in your barn, Tammy?
I'm going to throw one out to you. My favorite horse, well, not my favorite. I'm going to go to the horse that I thought was the best because he had so many gears to him, and he's never gotten to the bottom. Silver Match.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
He was a special horse. He just, you know, like good horses, they come up with problems. But when I was scalloping him in the beginning, and the first work that I've ever worked him, a good horse to me is when you ask them and they can just drop. And then you can feel them drop. It's like you pressing on the gas pedal, but like a Ferrari, say, and you're getting that kick. That's how he was. There was so many gears to him that I never got to him because we were just working. And that's what Robbie Alvarado would say after each race. There's more to this horse. He has so many gears to him. But a special horse will always, a good horse, a stake horse, put it this way, a stake horse you'll feel that drop when you just smooch to them, and then they'll relax. And then if you ask them again, you'll feel another gear to them. But, you know, I've been on a lot of good horses. Shackelford, First Dude, Tappett's Fly. Tappett's Fly, her first work that I've ever worked at Churchill was 3/8 of a mile. I came back and told Dale, it was that spring, I said, she will win the Breeders' Cup. And she did.
Wow.
It's just, you know, it's just what you feel underneath you. I don't know why I have that. It's, I guess, a lot of experience and just paying attention because I know I have to pay attention. This is our career and this is how we make money. So it's, I don't know, it's fun. And I'm doing what I love to do.
Well, Tammy, I know that I'm going to speak for all exercise riders that don't find their way into the headline very often, but, you know, it's such a, I think every exercise rider in the sport deserves to be nominated here for an unsung hero because the work that you do that goes unnoticed is invaluable, and you laid it out perfectly here this morning, and I can't thank you enough for spending a little time with me here, and congratulations on being this week's unsung hero.
Well, thanks for calling, Mike.
All right. Good luck today.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, Tammy Fox here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Yeah, a true unsung hero. I'll be back with more right after this word from Woodbine.
Attention horsemen, make plans now to race at Woodbine in 2023. The Thoroughbred meet begins in April, and Woodbine will distribute more than $64 million in purses. Plus, you'll enjoy world-class racing and training facilities with top turf racing in North America over the prestigious E.P. Taylor Turf Course. Woodbine's convenient proximity to Kentucky and New York, along with a 9-month racing season, make it the perfect place to compete this year. Shipping incentives may be available, so don't delay. Contact Director of Racing Tim Lawson today and visit woodbine.com for more information.
Field deserves to be nominated as an unsung hero. Send their story to me and tell me why you think they should be an unsung hero, and I will do my best to work them in over the weeks and the months ahead. You can do that at mike@horseracingradio.net. Coming up next, we go out west to Santa Anita. I welcome in Mike Willman, the Director of Publicity at the Great Race Place. He'll talk about Big Cap, and he'll talk about the San Felipe and all the great races taking place out there later today. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Sam Houston Race Park's live thoroughbred meet runs through April 8th and features a new afternoon racing schedule for 2023 with racing Friday through Sunday and a first post at 1 p.m. Central. We're looking forward to March 25th, Texas Champions Day. Make it to Sam Houston Race Park as the best in Texas compete in 7 exciting stakes races. The 9-race card starts at 1 p.m. at Houston's Best Bet. Canadian racing fans are invited to play Sam Houston at simulcast outlets throughout Canada and on HPI Bet. For more information, visit shrp.com.
I'm here with Joe Brown Nicholson of Nicholson Insurance Agency. Joe, how do you value a horse for insurance?
Well, Mike, it's easy to value a horse when purchased out of a public auction. The insured value would simply be the auction price. But insuring homebreds can be a little more involved.
How so?
Well, factors such as a stud fee, conformation, pedigree, sales and race records of siblings, even popularity of the stallion all come into play.
How closely do you work with owners in determining a horse's value?
Well, the owner has a pretty good idea of the horse's value, so generally it's just a matter of agreeing to the request and having the policy issued.
For all your equine and general insurance needs, including farm owners, liability, homeowners, auto, and more, contact Joe Brown Nicholson at nicholsoninsurance.com or call 859-224-7080. That's 859-224-7080. Nicholson Insurance Agency.
There's plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the championship meet with live racing Wednesday through Sunday. Don't miss the Triple Crown prep races, including the Fountain of Youth Stakes on March 4th and the Florida Derby Saturday, April 1st. Enjoy the races outdoors from the Carousel Club, our Feast in 10 Palms, offering a premium view of the races. For stake schedules, reservations, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Homeward bound in the big cap. Game on Dude is now turning it into a procession. Big run from Clubhouse right in second. Ron the Greek third. But just absorb this one. This is a moment of history. Game on Dude. Perhaps the easiest winner in history of the big cap. Game on Dude and Mike Smith cantering in. Club Ride and Call to Serve in a photo for second, then Ron the Greek, Giltrip, behind that Richards Kid, then Hanson Mike, back to Deacon Speakin and Stefan Oatsy.
Well, I told you earlier in the show that I do believe Game On Dude deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I'd love to see him get his plaque this year. 3-time winner of the Big Cap, the only 3-time winner of the Big Cap, and Trevor Denman had the call. You heard him mention Hall of Famer Mike Smith. Of course, Bob Baffert was the trainer of Game On Dude. They're teaming again later today in this year's Big Cap, which should be a really competitive renewal. It is part of a fantastic card at the Great Race Place, and nobody knows that better than my good friend Mike Willman, who is back with me here, always a popular guest. Mike, happy to have you back on the show.
Hey, nice to be with you, Mike. And, boy, the weather's cleared. A little bit cool by our standards. I think the high today is supposed to be in the mid-high 50s, but it's just really great conditions. Anybody watching today on the simulcast signal, FanDuel, CNBC, they're going to see the snow is still down very low, Mike. I've lived here my entire life. Never really seen this much snow this low. I've seen it this low, but it's gone in a day. It's been well over a week now. Just amazing, really.
I've told so many people over the years, Mike, that the greatest place I've ever found to sit and watch racing is in the grandstand at Santa Anita, because those San Gabriel Mountains are so beautiful. I can only imagine, and I've seen plenty of pictures and video on Twitter, but I can only imagine how beautiful it is with the snow on there now.
Yeah, it's absolutely spectacular. And then, we're close to the mountains, so we don't get that good of a look at the mountains to the northeast, which the biggest one is Mount Baldy. It's technically Mount San Antonio, but it's a little bit over 10,000, and they look like the Sierra Nevadas. That's how much snow they've got over there. So really kind of some amazing weather. Obviously, we needed it out west here, and we've been very lucky that it didn't hit Big Cap weekend. We're really poised for a huge day today, Mike, with a 12-race card, 4 graded stakes, the 2 grade ones with the Frankie Kilroe Mile on grass, then the Big Cap. The San Felipe is without question one of the biggest Derby preps in America. It's a grade 2, but it's really a grade 1. That's a $400,000 race. And then we've got a really nice group of fillies and mares going a mile on turf in the Buena Vista. So really looking forward to the card today. Pick 6, we've got a mandatory payout in place. We do this from time to time with our 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 jackpot. Mandatory payout with the carryover coming in today. We anticipate the total pool will be right at about, I think it'll exceed $3 million. Average field size in the Pick 6 today is, I think it's 9.3 horses per race, which is what you want. So it looks like there's going to be a lot of value on the card.
Mike, somebody has to tell me how the San Felipe is not a grade 1. There have been 13 Kentucky Derby winners to come through that race. How are we not looking at that as a grade 1?
I don't know. I think the Derby preps are they being the graded stakes committee, they're very reticent to make those G1s. They want to save that for the big dance at each racetrack, I guess. But the San Felipe it's a grade 1, and that's, I think, why the purse is what it is, and we're looking for another great race today. Obviously, Baffert looms here. He's got 4 of them, but they're now with Tim Yachtine. Tim's got one of his own. He's going to be very busy in the saddling paddock. It's a hell of a race. It really is.
Well, let's make sure we have enough time to walk through those 4 graded stakes on the program today. And we'll talk about the San Felipe in a minute because that is the second of the 4. But the first is race number 5, the grade 2 Buena Vista, which is 1 mile on the turf course. Tell me a little bit more about that race.
Well, what Bob Baffert is to dirt out here, that's what Phil D'Amato is to turf. He's got 4 of them in here. And he got a big look with all of them. I like, and Phil has just loaded with Irish breds. Jeff Mullins has an Irish bred by the name of Quattrol, who comes off, I thought, a sensational win. She got a 90 buyer in the grade 3 megahertz over the course of a mile here on February 4th. And if anybody wants to watch that race, Hector Berrios, who I really didn't know much about, Mike, till he came out here last summer and started doing well right away at Del Mar. He's a quiet kid, and he's quiet in the saddle. He rode as patient a race as you'll ever see on Quattrol to victory there in the megahertz. And, she was flying late. So I'm going to stick with her today. She's 3-1 on the morning line, and I think she's going to be exceptionally tough. But the contention runs all the way through here. It's a really, really competitive race. Neil Drysdale on the outside, he's got a horse that was 3-1, a filly, I should say, Nadette, a French bred that ended up beaten 6 lengths by Quattrol. You get a jock switch here today. She showed a lot of promise in her U.S. debut going a mile on turf here in the Autumn Miss Stakes back on October 29th as a 3-year-old. And she's been ridden twice by Umberto Rispoli. She goes to that man, Frankie Dettori, today. That is a significant rider switch. And I know that's kind of the cheapest thing in the world. Handicappers can say, big jock switch, when they didn't even see the way the race was run the last time. But Dettori is Dettori. He had a 4-win day here a couple of weeks ago. A lot of people are hoping that he's really not going to go through with his plans to retire. That's how good he's riding. But this is significant here with him taking over on the outside on Nadette. She's 6-1. It just gives you an idea of the depth of this field in today's Buena Vista.
And the Buena Vista is race number 5 on the 12-race program. Post time 1:55 Pacific, so 4:55 for those of us back here on the East Coast. It will be followed by the Grade 2 San Felipe. This is the race we just talked about. Should be a Grade 1 in my opinion. It is for the 3-year-olds and a very contentious Derby prep.
No doubt about it. National Treasure is going to be extremely tough. Johnny Velasquez rides him back. I mentioned that Baffert has lateraled 4 of these to Tim Yachtine, and everybody knows the Churchill Downs saga and the courtroom deal that's been going on for nearly 2 years now with Baffert and CDI. Hijazi is a Baffert that's now Yachtine that has been brilliant on occasion. I mean, he got 100 Beyer in defeat in his second start, sprinting going 5.5 at Del Mar, got beat by a stablemate by the name of Speedboat Beach. Hijazi comes off a maiden win going 6.5 here on January 15th. He is a rocket ship, but he's got a horse named Go Rocket Ride for Mandela right alongside him, just to his outside. These two will ensure a very fast pace, make no mistake about that. Go Rocket Ride to be ridden back by Flavion Pratt. First out maiden winner, going 3/4, and he won off by himself like a really nice horse. This is really not kind of a Mandela move to go, from maiden allowance, first time out short, right into the deep end of the pool. And as we noted, when you're talking San Felipe, for all intents and purposes, it's a grade 1 going 2 turns, but obviously they think a lot of him. So Go Rocket Ride, Hijazi, they're going to be winging. Fort Bragg is another Baffert. He comes in fresh. Now, he was third most recently back in mid-December in the Los Alamitos Futurity. John Sheriffs has a horse that I think has tremendous upside. I love the way he broke his maiden, and he did it going 2 turns at a mile. In fact, this is his third straight time going a route of ground. I'm going to lean towards Skinner with Victor Espinosa and John Sheriffs. This will be his 5th career start. Just a lot of things you like to see in terms of seasoning, 2-turn experience, and he got a 95 Beyer, Mike, in breaking his maiden on February 12th. That was coming off a gap where he disappointed in the American Pharoah on October 8th. So this is a very dangerous horse at 5-1. It's a hell of a race. It really is. And, after this, everybody will be looking toward the Santa Anita Derby and then, of course, the run for the Roses.
What a great story it would be to see Victor Espinosa back on the Derby trail and get him back to Louisville on the first Saturday in May. We'll see if Skinner can pull off the win for Mike Willman in today's San Felipe. 2 more, Mike. The Frank E. Kilroe Mile, Grade 1, 1 mile on the grass. It's race 11. It will be followed by the Big Cap. We'll talk about both of those here. The Kilroe Mile, always a fun race, and it always seems to give us some of the top turfers that we have, not just in California, but certainly from around the country.
Well, it's a really good race. And, again, here's Phil D'Amato with 4 of them. He's got a horse here that he has done a magnificent job with. He's an Irish bred. He's 5 for 6 all last year in Southern California after coming in from Ireland. I remember interviewing Phil after Hong Kong Harry won here last summer, and he said, he's probably about 900 pounds wringing wet. There's nothing to him, and I hate to do this, but I kind of like to make a little comparison to John Henry. This horse is nothing to look at. I mean, absolutely nothing to look at, but he's got a ton of heart. He's got a great turn of foot. Pratt rides him back, and I think Hong Kong Harry is going to be some kind of tough. He last ran on November 26th at Del Mar. He was up to win the Grade 2 Seabiscuit. He just wants to beat you. You got to love a horse like this. I'll tell you what, I don't know if he wins today, but he's going to be flying late. I think he's got a big look, and top to bottom, Phil's got another horse, an Irish bred by the name of Balnikov. Got a huge look with Umberto Rispoli. Master of Foxhounds, they put the blinkers on this gelding today, and he gets a rider switch, first time Johnny V. He's been very consistent. Maybe he can get over the top here. He comes off a second-place finish as the 3-1 favorite in the Grade 2 San Marcos. So he cuts back a quarter mile here today in the 1 mile Frankie Kilroe. Again, top to bottom, nothing but live horses in today's Kilroe.
Yeah, I love that Hong Kong Harry story. And he's a perfect 3 for 3 over the Santa Anita lawn. We'll see if he exits 4 for 4 after that Frankie Kilroe mile. How about the Big Cap, Mike? How'd you see that one?
To me, no clear-cut standout at all. I think Baffert's going for his 6th, or I think it's his 7th Santa Anita handicap today. He's got a big look with Defunded, no question about that. Now, because it's the Big Cap, he didn't have to play go through the exercise, I'll put it that way, being diplomatic, of transferring these horses to anybody else.
Yeah.
In Kentucky. So Defunded stays with Baffert. The leading man, Juan Hernandez, takes over. He was handled by Irad Ortiz last time out in the Pegasus, World Cup Invitational there in late January at Gulfstream Park. He's got a big look. I don't have any real strong conviction in today's big cap. It's great to see Mike Stidham is back out here. He's got a heck of a look here with Proxy, with Johnny Velasquez. But again, and then Baffert has a lightly raced horse, Hopper. He's got speed. These are the kind of races, Mike, it just doesn't seem like anybody wins them from well off the pace. You better be close. I know Hopper will be with Mike Smith, and he could certainly win it. But again, just top to bottom, we've got 9 of them with a couple of scratches. The big cap is just a super race today.
Yeah, race number 12, final race on the program, 5:31 Pacific, 8:31 back on the East Coast. Mike, about 45 seconds left before I have to get to another commercial break, but I'll let you plug anything else happening at Santa Anita today or this weekend, any special wagers you want to get out there.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, I think, Mike, look, the main thing is the mandatory payout in this Rainbow Six jackpot. A lot of people, they don't even play till these mandatories are in place. It's races 7 through 12 today. You got really good field size and competitive fields. Even if you have a lot of people hitting it, it should pay well. We sure hope so. But we estimate this pool today is going to be right at about, I think it'll exceed $3 million in this Rainbow Pick Six jackpot on Big Cap Day today at Santa Anita. Early first post at 12 noon, and we're looking for a super day on TV.
Mike, enjoy every minute of it, and enjoy those beautiful views out there with that snow on the San Gabriels.
Thanks, Mike. We'll see you for the Breeders' Cup.
You got it, brother. Thanks so much. Mike Willman here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. When I come back, I'll take a look at this week's Kentucky Bred Update and get you ready for hour number 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
My battle buddies and I attended the NHL Stadium Series at Yankee Stadium. We had never been there before, and 2 of us had never seen a hockey game. Man, we had the time of our lives. It was great therapy. Vet Tix, we can't thank you enough.
Every empty seat at a concert, a game, motorsports, or a play is a missed opportunity to say thanks to a veteran and service member. We can help. We can give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Find out how by visiting www.vettix.org. That's www.vettix.org. Find out how you can make a difference in a veteran's life.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Reap the rewards of breeding and racing in Kentucky. Yeah, you can do that. Combined purse money paid out an all-time high of more than $165 million in 2022, following a previous benchmark of more than $134 million in 2021. Average field size in Kentucky is 8.4. That's higher than Florida, New York, and California. Average purse per race in Kentucky is $77,000 plus. That outpaces all other leading racing jurisdictions, including Arkansas, New York, California, and Florida. Plus, you get over $200 million that's been distributed to Kentucky breeders since 2006, and purse money soaring thanks to the KTDF. For more information, visit KentuckyBreds.com. You can breed them, raise them, and race them. We all win. Yeah, great stuff. 2 hours down, 1 to go on today's Equine Forum. When I come back, I'm going to kick off hour 3 with this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. Vance Hanson going to join me to share some thoughts on 3 races you can keep an eye on later today. 10:20, it's Becker, Stroll Through Racing History. And at 10:30, Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin will be here for I Ask, They Answer. Don't forget, you can continue listening to the show nationwide on Sirius 216, XM 204, and at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum is next, right after 10 seconds for station ID. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Secretariat on the rail. Champagne Charlie on the outside, an eighth of a mile to the finish. Secretariat on the inside in front by half a length. Champagne Charlie second, 70 yards to the finish. It's Secretariat now in front.
Top of the lane, it's Violence in front. On the outside, Orb comes after him. Majestic Hussar is at the rail. Orb runs by Violence. Orb has taken the lead. And Orb on the outside has won the Basilou Stables Fountain of Youth.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
And it's Authentic, who's still very strong on the front end. And he pulls away with authority. Authentic is undefeated as he will romp in the San Felipe, a very easy 2.5 lengths.
Sir Dudley Diggs is thundering down the middle of the course. Aim for red, it's hanging tough, trying to incorporate, it's trying desperately. Sir Dudley Diggs on the right hand drive. It's Sir Dudley Diggs, the Lord Sawmill, 3 feet.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Welcome back. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum, rolling toward the finish line, but plenty more still ahead. Talking about the road to the Kentucky Derby, the Barbados Gold Cup, and the Big Cap over the course of the past 2 hours. Mike Penna bearing in the backstretch. Looking forward to the final few segments here in the show this morning. If you did miss any portion of the first 2 hours of the show, you know what to do. Head back to our website. Check out the podcast at horseracingradio.net. You can also do that on every single major podcast platform. So however you get your podcast, type in Horse Racing Radio Network and follow along at your leisure every single week with all the shows that we bring your way. And it has been a busy week in thoroughbred racing, a busy news week, which I touched on in the first couple hours of the program, and a very busy weekend ahead with those major Kentucky Derby prep races, the Kentucky Oaks prep races, and, of course, the Big Cap at Santa Anita and that Barbados Gold Cup. For those of you who are keeping a watch on some of the top international races, that's one you don't want to miss. Well, we're going to kick off hour number 3 momentarily with Vance Hanson in this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. He will give you 3 races to keep an eye on later today. Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20. And at 10:30, Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin will both be here for this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. But it is time to begin hour 3 with this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. And once again, to do that, I welcome Vance Hanson back to the program. Vance, happy to have you back on board this week, my friend.
Hey, Mike, good to be with you. It's a great day of racing today.
Yeah, and I know many people will be heading over to TwinSpires.com to place their wagers. They'll do that on the TwinSpires app, and you're going to give them 3 races which were intriguing to you. All 3 come from Gulfstream. We're going to look at the 5th race, which is the Colonel Liam Stakes with a purse of $200,000. That's a 1-mile turf event. Then you're going to turn your attention to race number 7, which is a 7-furlong sprint on the main track, and that's an allowance optional claimer. And then race number 13, which is the Grade 2 McDermott Stakes, mile and 3/8 on the turf. That's the race preceding race number 14, of course, which is the Fountain of Youth. So a lot of things to get to, my friend. It's going to be one hell of a day of racing down at Gulfstream.
Absolutely, and it looks like Todd Pletcher is really loaded for bear on that card. He's going to have at least 3 very heavy favorites, Forte, obviously the key one in the Fountain of Youth, and so yeah, and he's got 3 horses in the first race I'm looking at in the Colonel Liam, race number 5, and the one I'm gravitating toward is number 2, OK Boomer, from the Team Valor stable. OK Boomer enters this his stakes debut, 2 for 2. I went back and looked at his allowance win in mid-January at Gulfstream, and I was impressed by this colt's potential. He kind of was making a move into contention at the quarter pole, kind of got stopped a little bit in behind horses, but him and jockey Louis Saez did not panic, kind of waited until the turn for home, switched out for running room, and then came on late and won by a length. And OK Boomer was, I don't think he's totally mentally in the game yet. He's still a young horse, still learning, but I was rather impressed by what I saw in that allowance race. I think this is a good spot for him to make his stakes debut, and I think his stablemates in here, Dude in Colorado and Santorini, both have some speed here, and if they set an honest enough pace, I think that could certainly help OK Boomer come from behind in this race.
There is a European in here, Vance, and this is always a topic I like to bring up when I am visiting with a handicapper here on the show, because so many people will look at the European past performances, and of course I use the Briss past performances, and there aren't running lines. There isn't a lot of information like we get with the U.S. past performances, and I'm talking about number 3, and correct me if I'm wrong, Balloony is how I'm going to go with the name. I could be completely butchering it. I hope not, but that European making his U.S. debut later today. How do you decipher that form?
On paper, I tend to I tend not to give too much emphasis to. For example, this horse is coming in from France, and he's been running at the provincial tracks of Lyon and Vichy. Now, those tracks are obviously not on the high circuit, Parisian circuit, where you have courses like Longchamp and Deauville and Chantilly. Now, if this horse had been running at those courses, I think I would probably give him a closer look. But in general, if they're running at the French provincial tracks, I'm not quite as impressed as I would be otherwise. And however, Chad Brown, of course, has many, many years of experience getting horses to run well in America off from basically anywhere in France or Europe for that matter. So I could be underestimating the form that Balloony has shown in France. However, it's a Chad Brown. He's going to get bet. He's a European import. And I think the value probably generally will lie elsewhere.
All right, well, you are going to go with value. Number 2, OK Boomer, 5-1 on the morning line for trainer Todd Pletcher to win a race, by the way, named for Colonel Liam, a horse that Todd trained. So it would be pretty special if he could pull off the victory in this one later today. That's the top pick for Vance in race 5. We move to race number 7, the second leg of the TwinSpires triple play. Again, 7-furlong sprint on the main track. Vance, how'd you see this one?
My main opinion in this race is that I'm fading the heavy favorite here, number 2, White Abarrio at 6-5. White Abarrio, of course, won the Florida Derby last year. He hasn't won since, and he turned in the worst performance of his career at Gulfstream last time in the Pegasus World Cup. So he was sitting a great trip and then just fizzled out and finished 8th, and that was his first loss at Gulfstream in 5 attempts. Now, Obviously, the connections are probably looking for a confidence-boosting win in this allowance race. However, I'm taking a somewhat jaundiced view of this placement because 2 races back, White Barrio finished a very good third in the Cigar Mile, which makes me wonder why they're not running this horse back in the Gulfstream Park Mile later in the card on Saturday. It could be basically they just don't want to face Charge It. I can understand that, but something tells me that the connections maybe don't like what they're seeing, and they're put him in a spot that might be below a spot below what a horse of his caliber should be able to accomplish. And so I'm fading White Barrio in this race. I'm going with number 1 High Oak for Bill Mott at 8-1. Now, High Oak, the last time we saw him in competition, he took a very, very nasty fall after he clipped heels in last year's Fountain of Youth Stakes. I like the fact that they obviously didn't rush him back, allowed him to recover from any injuries he has sustained in that race. But if you go back to his 2-year-old form, High Oak was a very promising 2-year-old. He traded decisions with Good Night at Saratoga. He beat him in the Saratoga Special, then finished behind him in the Hopeful. And Good Night, of course, has turned into a world-class sprinter for Steve Asmussen. Now, High Oak certainly could need this race. It's been a year since we last saw him in competition, but I trust Bill Mott has him, as well as he can be going into this race. And, of course, Mott has had a terrific meet at Gulfstream this fall with upsets like Art Collector and the Pegasus World Cup. So High Oak is my pick to upend White Barrio in this race.
Vance, do you ever wonder and get concerned about the mental state of a horse coming back after something like that happens in their previous race?
Oh, sure. That's something you definitely have to keep in mind, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the price on offer.
Yep.
If High Oak is going to stay at 8-1 as he is in the morning line, I think it's worth the risk that he's completely recovered from any mental issues that he may have taken away from that incident. But if the price is much lower than that, then you've got to maybe search elsewhere.
Yeah, and you trust in a Hall of Famer like Bill Mott. He's in the right hands, and that should certainly help in his return. Should be ready to roll off the bench. High Oak, number 1 in race number 7, 8-1 on the morning line. Another value play for Vance Hanson here this morning on the TwinSpires Triple Play. All right, one more race, Vance. It is number 13. You've selected the Grade 2 McDermott, 1 3/8 on the lawn. Who wins this one?
Well, considering Mike Maker has won this race 3 of the last 4 years, I'm gravitating toward him, and I like number 10, Value Engineering. Now, Maker just acquired this horse late last year from Chad Brown, and Value Engineering has basically done nothing wrong for Maker in 2 starts at the winter meet at Gulfstream. He entered him in the Alan Jerkins which was taken off the turf and run on the Topeka track over 1 5/8. That turned out to be a win. And then last time in the William McKnight, Value Engineering was part of a multiple horse entry from the Maker barn, and he proved second best in that race. He was beaten only by Red Knight, who was a far more accomplished stablemate of Value Engineering's, but it was still a terrific effort on his part. Got into contention around the far turn into upper stretch, battled for the lead with Red Knight, and then just finished second best to him in that race. I think Value Engineering is coming into this race probably as good as he was last month. And I don't find this field too imposing, and I basically like the fact that even at the age of 7, he doesn't have many miles on him. He enters this race in peak form, and I'm expecting another good effort.
All right, Value Engineering, the 7-year-old gelding, 6-1 on the morning line, and race 13, the McDermott for Vance. So just to recap, Vance, make sure I have them correct. Race number 5 at Gulfstream today, you'll go with number 2, OK Boomer, who is 5-1 on the morning line. Race number 7, number 1, High Oak at 8-1, and race number 13, we just talked about, that is number 10, Value Engineering at odds of 6-1. So 3 great value plays.
Yes, and hoping at least one can come through. And get us off the schneid a little bit, and looking forward to an absolutely terrific day coast to coast. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, what's happening over at TwinSpires and Briss? What can folks look forward to on this massive day of thoroughbred racing?
Well, if you check out the TwinSpires Edge blog, we're going to have lots of opinions all across the board from all. We've got Gulfstream and Santa Anita obviously covered. The Gotham at Aqueduct is a great race as well. Turfway Park has a couple of minor Derby and Oaks preps later on Saturday, and those look like terrific betting races as well. So check out all the opinions at TwinSpires. We'll have recaps up at brissnet.com as well as all of our handicapping information for all the fans out there.
Don't tell Rich Strike that's a minor Derby prep at Turfway later today.
That's true. Fourth in the Battaglia last year, and
yes.
I don't know if Lightning can strike twice so soon, but it certainly hasn't stopped a lot of horsemen from entering that race. And like I said, it should be a terrific betting affair.
Yeah, so true. The race has credence now, considering Rich Strike, as you said, finishing fourth in the John Battaglia Memorial last year, and now going on to be a Derby winner. Vance, really appreciate the conversation as always. Thanks for the selections, and good luck at the windows.
Thanks. Same to you, Mike.
All right, Vance Hanson with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Again, doesn't matter how you play those races. Just make sure you're playing them and those selections at TwinSpires.com. All right, when I come back, I'm going to take a look at Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History. It's a story that you will not want to miss, as I tell you every week, because they're all fantastic. And then at 10:30 Eastern, Dale and Tim will both be here for this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. Should be loaded. I have plenty of really important topics to talk about with them. So make sure you're tuned into that at 10:30 as well. Stay with me. It's the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Sam Houston Race Park's live thoroughbred meet runs through April 8th and features a new afternoon racing schedule for 2023 with racing Friday through Sunday and a first post at 1 p.m. Central. We're looking forward to March 25th, Texas Champions Day. Make it to Sam Houston Race Park as the best in Texas compete in 7 exciting stakes races. The 9-race card starts at 1 p.m. at Houston's Best Bet. Canadian racing fans are invited to play Sam Houston at simulcast outlets throughout Canada and on HPI Bet. For more information, visit shrp.com.
Curling, the classic sire.
They're off in the Derby City this day. An obligatory, and it's gotta be Clariere in the 5th Stakes. Nest, much the best. She won by better than 10 lengths in this coaching club. American Oaks, Cody's Wish, with the upset in the Fargo. And Malathon has won the personal ensign stakes.
Curling, standing at Hill and Dale.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
Romantic Warrior, Golden 60, and neck to his outside. It's the 2 great horses of Hong Kong, but it's Golden 60, the greatest of Hong Kong. He beat Romantic Warrior ahead.
Golden 60, the son of Darley Stallion Medaglia d'Oro, recorded his 8th career win at the highest level with that victory in the Grade 1 Hong Kong Gold Cup. In addition, Golden 60 is currently the world's leading money earner with over $17.4 million in earnings, making him very deserving of being named your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Medaglia d'Oro, the sire of $25 million yearlings or 2-year-olds since 2016, more than any other stallion. Learn more about $1 Million Medaglia d'Oro and all the Darley Stallions by visiting DarleyAmerica.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. He was best known for finishing runner-up to Affirmed in all three legs of the 1978 U.S. Triple Crown. But before those races, he had also restored the sport's most legendary farm to prominence and had helped launch a young trainer on what would become a Hall of Fame career. His name was Alydar. Foaled on March 23, 1975 at Calumet Farm in Lexington, Kentucky, Alydar was born into racing royalty. His mother's side of the pedigree made him the fourth generation of a prominent Calumet family, while his sire was unbeaten champion Reza native. Named for Pakistani diplomat and socialite Ali Khan, Alydar was a Calumet Farm homebred, but had been born at a time when the farm was entering its twilight years. Gone were the glory days when Calumet had amassed a record 8 victories in the Kentucky Derby, the days when Calumet perennially led all North American owners and breeders. Calumet owner Lucille Parker Wright Markey and her husband Admiral Gene Markey were in their 80s. Their health had declined to where they no longer attended the races, but listened at home by radio or watched on television. And Calumet had gone the second half of 1975, all of 1976, and the first half of 1977 without scoring a stakes victory. But Calumet had a promising young horse in the strapping chestnut colt named Alydar. And Calumet also had a young trainer in John Veach, age 32, a Lexington-born fourth-generation horseman. Slow from the gate and boxed in traffic, Alydar was a non-threatening fifth in his career debut, which came at Belmont Park in June of 1977 in the Youthful Stakes. The winner that day was Affirmed, the colt which would soon become his arch-rival. Described as a big, handsome type with a pleasant disposition, Alydar returned on July 6th at Belmont and defeated Affirmed in the 87th running of the Great American Stakes. Just 4 days earlier, Veach had trained Alydar's half-sister, Our Mims, to a win in the Grade 1 Coaching Club American Oaks. Calumet Farm was back, and Veach was the trainer, helping return their Devil's Red and Blue Silks to the winner's circle. August would bring a week into Veach's life unlike any he had ever experienced. On August 10th, he saw his father, trainer Sylvester Veach, inducted into racing's Hall of Fame at Saratoga. 3 days later, John Veach sent Alydar to the post at Monmouth Park for a victory in the Grade 1 Sapling Stakes. And on the same afternoon, his father saddled Our Mims on his behalf at Saratoga for a win in the Grade 1 Alabama. Later that fall, Alydar would capture the 105th running of the Grade 1 Champagne Stakes at Belmont Park, giving him his second victory over Affirmed. But Affirmed would beat him in 3 Grade 1 races, the Hopeful at Saratoga, the Futurity at Belmont, and the Laurel Futurity, which was enough to secure the Eclipse Award for Affirmed as the nation's top juvenile colt. Early in 1978, Alydar went to Florida to start his 3-year-old campaign, while Affirmed went to California. On March 4th, Alydar won the Grade 1 Flamingo at Hialeah. And on April 1st, he won the Grade 1 Florida Derby at Gulfstream Park. But it was at Keeneland Racecourse in Lexington, Kentucky, next door to the farm where he was foaled, that Alydar recorded arguably the greatest performance of his career. Admiral and Mrs. Markey were on hand to see their colt, standing along the outer fence near the top of the home stretch next to the clubhouse. Jockey George Velasquez guided Alydar to the fence after the post parade to say hello. And then he took Alydar to the starting gate as the 1-10 favorite for the Bluegrass Stakes. The date was April 27th, 1978. Mike Battaglia gives us the call.
Alydar is second, Go Forth holds third, Chop Chop Tomahawk now fourth, Special Honor is fifth. Moving for the stretch, Alydar to the outside. He moves by very easily, takes over the lead, opens it out to 3.5 lengths. Raymond Earl still holds second, Go Forth is third. Sunny Songster is making a late run on the outside. We have a furlong to run, and Alydar has opened the lead out to 6 lengths. Raymond Earl still second, followed on the outside by Go Forth and Sunny Songster. But as they're nearing the finish, it's Alydar just drawing away with the lead with every stride under the wire. Alydar very easy, maybe a 10-length winner.
It was a moment for the ages. With his octogenarian owners looking on, Alydar rolled home by 13 lengths that afternoon, winning the Bluegrass. When the Markeys thanked Veach for the job he had done with the colt, Veach replied, quote, "Anyone can train this kind of horse. It's like turning the engine on in a Ferrari, end quote. Of course, history tends to relegate Alydar to the status of a bridesmaid, with those runner-up finishes to affirmed in all 3 legs of the Triple Crown. But Alydar would eventually land in the Hall of Fame, as would his trainer, and together they helped return Calumet Farm to the national spotlight. John Veach passed away recently on Valentine's Day at the age of 77. We remember him, and we remember Alydar, both for their contributions to racing history. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history, presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
And once again, my thanks to Kurt and to Keeneland for making those segments possible each and every week. If you have missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, all you have to do is head back over to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the special podcast page dedicated to those stories and listen to every single one. There have been some amazing ones. Go back and listen at horseracingradio.net. When I come back, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, they will be here. It is this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And now a Florida Thoroughbred history moment. Winning the Kentucky Derby and Preakness in 1997, Florida bred Silver Charm showcased just some of the talent coming out of the Ocala Breeder Sales and Florida. Silver Charm was trained by the McCathan brothers and Bob Baffert, who were only rising stars back then. The Gray gained international acclaim, winning the Dubai World Cup, and later joined the stallion ranks in Japan. This has been a Florida Thoroughbred history moment.
New to Coolmore America for 2023 is Jack Christopher, a son of top sire Munnings and a 3-time Grade 1 winner. Jack Christopher was an 8 3/4 length winner on debut at Saratoga at 2 before winning the Grade 1 Champagne with a whopping 102 Beyer. His 3-year-old campaign included wins in the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile, the Grade 1 Woody Stevens by 10 lengths, and the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins. Jack Christopher stands at an introductory fee of $45,000. Call the team at Ashford today to book your mare before he fills up.
Grade 1 winner and track record setter Lee. Like their sire, his runners have excelled on both dirt and turf, including these standout performers.
Poppy Flower is kicking in. Poppy Flower with the momentum. Nagarok, they come on for the finish, and it is going to be Nagarok.
Out of a Galileo mare, this dual surface star has sired juvenile stakes winners on both dirt and turf. Lee, standing at Claiborne Farm.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
As the field turns for home at the top of the stretch, and it is Big Brown who rolls open now to a 3-length lead. 8,000 second recapture the glory. His third tail of the county is fourth in the final furlong of the Kentucky Derby, and it's going to be Big Brown bounding home to a convincing win in the Run for the Roses. It is Big Brown by 5 on the wire. The Philly 8 Bells was second. Dennison Court came from 20th to be third under the line, and Tail of the Cloudy was fourth. There's the Derby winner, Big Brown, and he delivered today.
Well, did he ever? That was 2008. Tom Durkin with a call of that Run for the Roses. Trainer Rick Dutrow saddled Big Brown to victories in the Derby and Preakness that year before coming up short in his Triple Crown bid in the Belmont. Dutrow has recently returned to racing after serving a 10-year suspension which ended at midnight on January 17th. But should we temper our enthusiasm for his return to the top level? Plus, should Arrogate, California Chrome, Lady Eli, and Songbird all be considered locks for the Hall of Fame in their first year on the ballot? And are Dale and Tim buying or selling the morning line favorites in today's 4 Kentucky Derby points races? All of that and much, much more is straight ahead on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin, and it's all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business, and it all starts just 30 seconds from right now.
Learn the business of horses in the world's only accredited equine business program, the University of Louisville Equine Business Program. The University of Louisville has a legacy of excellence educating and developing industry leaders for over 35 years. Classes are taught by industry experts in state-of-the-art facilities located in the heartland of America's equine industry. The University of Louisville Equine Business Program. When it comes to horses, we mean business. For more information, visit business.louisville.edu/equine.
All right, Tim Wilkin is in his home base in New York. Dale Romans is in shorts and T-shirts sitting on a golf cart in Florida. What better way to kick off this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer? And, guys, we begin with Rick Dutrow and his 10-year suspension, which came to an end at midnight on January 17th. This past week, he was granted a trainer's license by the New York State Gaming Commission. Prior to his suspension, as we know, Dutrow was very successful. He saddled 1,811 winners, which included 3 Breeders' Cup wins and victories in the 2008 Kentucky Derby and Preakness with Big Brown. What should we realistically expect to see from Rick Dutrow going forward? Dale, you're a trainer. Take it.
You know, and Rick is also one of my good friends. He called me when he walked out of the meeting the other day. When he got his license back, you never heard a happier person in the world. Let me tell you, Rick is a different person, and he's not everybody's cup of tea, but he is half horse. He will have 100 horses within 2 weeks, and he will be back on top by the end of the year. He's a great horse trainer, and you know, he grew up in the business just like I did, and a lot of guys that train horses, and it's the only thing he knows. He's been miserable for 10 years. It's a misjustice, in my opinion. He got a 60-day suspension. He appealed it, and they made it 10 years. I'm glad Rick's back. My good friend's back, and he'll be in Kentucky. Say he's coming to Keeneland.
Well, you know, it's this definitely wasn't a slap on the wrist. I mean, it's they really made an example of Rick, and I remember being at his hearing in Schenectady, New York, for I think it was 2 days, maybe 3, for the Gaming Commission. And, you know, I really, Rick has always been, and I know him. I mean, he's never been a guy. I mean, he loves horses. I mean, I think he loves horses more than he loves people. I mean, he always treated his horses, I thought, the right way. You know, and if he was found guilty of doing some things that he wasn't supposed to be doing, maybe he thought it was the right thing to do, even though that sounds crazy. But the fact that he's back in the game, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be negative towards it. But the guy is a good horseman, and people might think I'm crazy for saying that. But I mean, I was at his barn, you know, dozens of times, and you know the way he treated his horses, you know, it was like most and you know people also think I'm crazy when I say this, because I really think most trainers do treat their horses, you know, with great respect and care, and they do everything they can to make sure that they're all doing well. You know, it's unfortunate that he did get caught. He did do some things that were wrong. I mean, it'll be interesting to me to see if the owners come back to him, and I think probably a lot of them will. I don't know if he'll have 100 horses, maybe, but I still think that you know, he's 63 now. Still got plenty of years left. But I just think a lot of people are going to be taking a wait-and-see attitude on when he comes back. And, you know, he's going to be under a big microscope.
Well, I agree with you. He may not have 100 horses. He might have 200. This guy's a great horse trainer, and people want to win. And he's a good friend. We grew up the same way. I just think the game, like I always say, the game's better with Bob Baffert. The game's better with Rick Dutrow. And there's, you know, if you look at, you can knock him. You can talk about the number of suspensions he's had or what he's done, but everything has been basically very petty. And they were going to make him an example, but I don't see any more 10-year bans for the same type of stuff. And I'm just glad Rick's back.
And, you know, there's some people that have been given suspensions, and that goes through the appeal process, and they may never serve them. I mean, because it just gets caught up in the legal system forever and ever.
There's a lot of questions around the things they rule Rick off for, too. It's, he was a poster boy because he was outspoken. He can't tell a lie. He just says whatever's on his mind. Whatever they ask him a question that pops out, maybe that's why we're friends. But Rick, it was a miscarriage of justice for Rick to get 10 years for the little things that they were talking about.
Well, the bottom line is he has served his time, and he has the right to come back. The New York State Gaming Commission has determined that that's okay, too, and they have given him his license, and we'll see more from Rick Dutrow. Like him or hate him, he's polarizing. We'll see where this goes from here in the months ahead. All right, topic number 2. Guys, if you remember, a few weeks ago we played a round of buy or sell with some of the horses that have won Derby points races this year. We're going to flip it around. We're going to do buy or sell this morning, but we're going to do it with the favorites in each of the 4 Derby points races later today. The Gotham, the San Felipe, the Fountain of Youth, and the John Battaglia Memorial at Turfway. So let's go ahead and kick it off. I will say the name of the horse, give you a little background. You can tell me if you were buying or selling that morning line favorite in today's race or even for the Kentucky Derby. So we'll kick it off with the Gotham. Timmy, I'll come to you first. The undefeated Eyeing Clover for Brad Cox has been made the morning line favorite. Buying or selling?
I'm selling here. As good as Brad Cox is, as good. Sorry, I've jumped the gun. Sorry. As good as Brad Cox has been in the Triple Crown preps. I mean, this Eyeing Clover is undefeated. Won his first 2 starts, sprint races. Impressive doing it. He's a lukewarm 4-1 favorite in the Gotham. He's starting from post 13. I think there's too much to Verifying last week started from the post 13. He couldn't overcome it. And I think Verifying's a better horse than Eyeing Clover. So I'm going to sell this one, even though Brad Cox has been making all the right moves so far mostly all the right moves on the Triple Crown Trail.
All right, I'm gonna buy him. Now, Lee, this is gonna be tough for you to play. It's gonna be tough for you to play the sound effects, but I'm gonna buy him for this race, but I'm gonna sell him for the Kentucky Derby. I don't see the Derby winner coming out. That's our producer, Lee. That is best. I'm going to say that I'm buying him in this race, but I'm going to sell him for the Derby. I don't think this race will produce a Derby winner.
Okay. How about the San Felipe Stakes at Santa Anita? The favorite is National Treasure. First start for trainer Tim Yachtine after being transferred from the barn of Bob Baffert. Dale, buy or sell?
I'm going to buy him. I think Baffert's go ahead, Lee. I'm going to buy this horse. This is a good horse. He could be bought in the race, and he possibly could be bought for the Derby.
Timmy?
Well, this is I'm going to agree with Dale. I'm going to buy this one. This is in this race, Tim Yachtine has one. I think it's 5 total, but 4 of them are formerly Baffert horses, and American Treasure was 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year, 2nd in the American Pharoah last year, and he was in his debut this year. He was 3rd in the Sham at odds on. So I think that he's going to be a horse that I think should win this race, but he's going to have competition. I mean, I might butcher this name, Hijazi, who was also from Bob's barn, is now with Yachtine, the New York bred horse that went for $3.5 million. He's eligible, I think, to do something pretty cool in this race. But as far as National Treasure goes, I'm going to buy.
All right, Timmy, we'll stick with you for the Fountain of Youth. I think this one is maybe I'll be surprised by your answers to this one, but the juvenile champion Forte returns in this one for Todd Pletcher. Buy or sell?
Well, in light of our little competition, I have to buy, don't I?
Yes.
I mean, he's one of my fantasy stable horses in here. And, he's the juvenile champ from last year. Todd Pletcher has said on record that he's been training better than he's ever been training, but also it's his first start since the juvenile last year. I mean, this horse doesn't have to be ramped up to his full potential in this race because the bigger goal is down the line, and he's already got 40 points in the Derby standings. He's probably going to get in off that. I'm not saying that Forte's going to just, lay an egg here. I think he's the horse to beat. And there's some stiff competition in here. And I also hope that another horse, a Cyclone horse, rebounds in this race. But from my standpoint, the fact that he's on my fantasy team, I hope he wins.
Well, there's a difference. Here you go, Lee, again. I'm going to sell him in this race because I think Cyclone's going to win. But I'll buy him for a Derby prospect because he's the real deal. And, we've seen the two best 2-year-old fillies come back and throw a little clunkers first time back, and I bought both of them. I think they're going to rebound, and I think the same thing could happen here.
Dale, does your decision to sell Forte have anything to do with what Timmy just mentioned and the fact that you're saddling Cyclone Mischief against him later today?
100%. That's all. I can't buy the competition.
Yeah, I'm buying Dale Romans later today in that Fountain of Youth. So, Dale, good luck there. One more for you, the John Battaglia Memorial at Turfway. Don't dismiss this race. Rich Strike came out of this race last year to win the Derby. Gilmore, his first start for Brendan Walsh, is the favorite in here. Runner-up in the El Camino Real Derby with Bob Baffert last time out. Dale, what do you think? Buy or sell Gilmore?
I'm going to buy him in this spot. Brendan's a good friend of mine. Brendan's, we're country club buddies. We go to the same club. We play together, hang out together. His barn's next to mine at Churchill. One of the great guys of the game, kind of a under-the-radar guy. I think he's going to do a great job with this horse. I'm going to buy.
I did a lot of thinking on this one, and I'm giving him a lukewarm buy on this one. He's already proven on a synthetic surface when he was second in the El Camino Real, and it just should be right up his alley. And Rich, like you mentioned, Rich Strike was fourth in this race last year, and I think he's the only horse that's ever come out of this race to win the Derby. And of course, no one ever saw that coming. But for this race, I'm going to take a buy on the Gilmore man, not the Gilmore girl.
All right, there you go. We'll do it all over again with buy or sell as we get closer to the Kentucky Derby. We'll maybe do it with the top 5 list for the Kentucky Derby as we get closer. But that wraps up this week's edition. Now we head to another fun segment that we like to do every single week, and that is welcoming our good friend Nick Zito to the show for this week's Right or Wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Okay.
All right, guys, 2 topics to get to here today. We'll kick it off with Panthalassa, who gave Japan another momentous win in Saturday's Saudi Cup. Japan has never had a Kentucky Derby winner, nor has any horse ever come from the UAE Derby in Dubai to win the Derby. And I bring this up because the UAE Derby has sent a lot more starters than Japan has sent to the Derby. So if I were to make the statement and say that a Japanese horse is going to wear the roses before a horse from Dubai, would I be right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Dale?
I'm going to go, you're probably right. I mean, we've had a lot of tries with UAE Derby. It doesn't seem to work out very well. And Japanese are winning all over the world right now. So if I had to bet one way or the other which team will win first, I will go with the Japanese.
Well, I don't think either of them are going to win a Derby. But if I were going to go on the question, I'm going to say you're right because I think the Japanese have just stepped up their game as far as everything in horse racing, from the racing, the breeding. I mean, they've proven it all over the world. They haven't proven it in the U.S. yet. And the UAE Derby has just been the Kentucky Derby futility race for them. The horses that come out of that, 18 of them have come out of that race in the 14 years it's been run, and the best finish they've ever had was 5th. So I think Master of Hounds. Japan did win that race last year with Crown Prince, and the UAE Derby just seems to be, to me, to be a snake-bitten race when it comes to the Kentucky Derby. So I'm going to go with the Japanese.
Yeah, I guess it technically could be both, right? A horse like Crown Pride, who came out of that race last year, won the UAE Derby, came from Japan. So I guess technically the answer could be both, but we'll go with which team is going to win the Kentucky Derby first. And yeah, sounds like Japan is the choice for Dale and Tim this morning. All right, topic number 2. Arrowgate California Chrome, Lady Eli, and Songbird all appear on this year's Hall of Fame ballot in their first year of eligibility. All 4 of those horses will get their plaque in Saratoga Springs later this summer. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Okay.
Tim?
Well, I have a vote, and if you go by all the accomplishments these horses had on the track, they should all get in. Even though I know that a lot of people are going to poo-poo Arrogate, saying he didn't do enough in a long period of time because his racing career wasn't super long. But he's the all-time leading money winner in North America in our sport. I think he's got to get in. He had that one stretch for his career when he set a record in the Travers. He won the race in Dubai. On the Pegasus. I think he's got to get in. California Chrome, I think, is a no-brainer. A 2-time horse of the year, and when he ended his career before Arrogate, he was the leading money winner before Arrogate came and got him. Songbird, what can you say about her? She raced 15 times in her career, won 13 of them, and the 2 losses were by a neck and a nose. She's got to get in. And Lady Eli was just a phenomenal grass horse. She had 10 wins and 14 starts, 12 graded stakes races, 8 grade ones, and she won 5 of those. And she had such a great backstory of, she almost died, and then came back to the races and was really very competitive. So I think she goes in too. So to me, I'm going to borrow a line from Dale Romans, put them all in.
There you go. Hey, they're all first ballot Hall of Famers. I don't know if it's mathematically possible if they could all be voted in. But every one of them should be, and if they don't get in on first ballot, every one of those horses will be in the Hall of Fame at some point along the way.
Yeah, I would agree. I think all 4 should have a plaque in Saratoga this year in their first year on the ballot. All very, very deserving candidates. We'll see how that plays out later this spring. All right, that is right or wrong. We will do that segment again next week, as we do every week here on I Ask, They Answer. 2 more topics to get to, and the next topic involves the big cap at Santa Anita. It is being renewed at the Great Race Place later today. Many of the greatest horses of all time have a big cap win on their resume, but with names like Express Train, Idol, Combatant, and Gift Box listed as winners the past 4 years, guys, I'm going to ask you, has the Santa Anita handicap lost some of its luster? Dale?
Well, the race been around a long time. It could have had a few dips along the way. But no, this is one of the great races in American racing, and it's one that I would like to have on my resume. I always wanted the Arlington Million. We got that. The big cap would be one of them under the Derby that I would want to get on my resume. It's still a great race. Anybody who's a horse fan, go down and look through in history of who has won it. And the great horses will do it again. It might have had a little dip the last few years, but it's a great race. And it's a great race for anybody to put on their resume.
Well, it's been around since, 1935, and, the names that you mentioned, Mike, are not the same names like Lava Man and John Henry and Spectacular Bid and Affirmed, Seabiscuit.
Yeah.
You don't – those names are some of the all-time greats. Yeah, they haven't had those names, the likes of those names lately. So yeah, maybe it has lost a little of its luster as far as the star power, but the race itself is still a race that is a must-see for horse racing fans. You talk the Santa Anita Handicap, you don't call it the Santa Anita Handicap, you call it the Big Cap, and that's what it's known as, and it's always going to have a place in racing history. And I'm not going to go out and say that it's lost its luster, because it is still one of the must-see races on the racing calendar for older horses.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great point, Timmy. The big cap being renewed again at Santa Anita later this afternoon. One more topic. I want to jump right into it, guys, to give us enough time, because I think this is an important one. For the second time in less than 2 months, the racing industry is mourning the loss of another jockey who has taken his own life. That was 29-year-old Alex Canchari. The news comes just 50 days after the death of 23-year-old Avery Wisman. Guys, jockey mental health is going to be at the forefront of many discussions moving forward, including right here on this show. So I'm going to ask you here this morning, what things can our industry do to help prevent these tragedies moving forward? Timmy, you want it first?
Well, it's just a very sad thing that, mental health and depression, and, it's in all walks of life. I mean, there's so much pressure on, everybody, but, you look, when you're trying to support a family and do well in your profession, I think that, if you're a young jockey, and the success isn't coming, it's really going to weigh on you. And the lifestyle of a jockey is different from anybody else that walks the planet, because the diet, the restrictions they have, and there's just so much they have to deal with. And as far as what can the sport do, I don't know if there's anything. You can't get into a person's head unless you're around them, and you can. There's telltale signs, but it's just so sad to see these young people taking their own lives when you just don't know what's going on inside them. So, maybe there should be programs made that are voluntary for people that want to address a problem like that. But that's about the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. But it's definitely something that has to be addressed.
Yeah, this one hits home. Alex was a great kid. Both these young men were competing every day to feed their families. It's a tough life. But that's the world. That's everywhere. Alex won the race for me when I broke the record for the most wins ever at Churchill Downs. And he was a nice kid. You could tell he had troubles all along. But let me tell anybody out there who's listening, anybody who's in our game who listens to this show, the racing industry is what we do. It's not who we are. There's a lot of good life outside of horse racing. And if anybody is out there feels so depressed and they're thinking about doing anything like this, do me a favor. Please get a hold of me some way. Let's just talk. Because there's a lot of good out there. And it's a cliche line, but I think it's one of the greatest there is. It's a permanent solution for a temporary problem. And there's life outside of racing. I know it doesn't feel like it sometimes. And it doesn't matter what sport you're in. It doesn't matter what walk of life. Life can be tough, but it gets better. And please, anybody that's out there, we can't do anything for the two guys that just passed that are part of our livelihood. But we can do something for anybody who's out there that in the future is considering it. Reach out. You don't have to end your life. I know it's tough. I've competed every day of my life to feed my family. I know what we go through every day. I know the ups and downs. Sometimes you hit a down, you don't think an up will ever come back. I've hit a lot of downs where I thought I'm never going to get back, and we always seem to come back up. People are good. Life is good. Do not take it to this kind of extreme. And please reach out to somebody. If it's not me, it's somebody you care about, somebody who will listen to you. It's not mental illness or depression. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's something to work your way out of. Get a hold of somebody. My number is easy to find. Anybody in our game that is considering any type of action like this, please call first.
Yep, very well said, Dale. And I said this earlier in the show that this should really be another significant wake-up call for the sport. And it's unfortunate that these tragedies have occurred now, but it's something that the sport needs to look at, much like the NFL did back in the early 2000s when CTE became the term, and people suffering from concussions, players suffering from concussions in the sport that were taking their own lives. I don't know if this is concussion related, but there have to be programs in our sport now going forward to help these young men and women that are suffering. Whether you're a trainer or a jockey or whatever the case may be, there has to be programs in place that our industry offers to help these people that are suffering, so it doesn't get to this point going forward.
I agree, and we need to keep that. We need to keep this in the forefront. We need to talk about it more on our show here. We do every week.
Yep.
And I know you talk about it on yours when we're not with you. The conversation needs to continue.
Yeah.
People, please, if you're out there listening, that's not the way to go.
Yep. Amen to that, Dale. And Timmy, thanks for the sentiments there, too. All right, guys, we have to wrap up the show here. We're just about out of time. You remember last week we created the showdown between Dale and Tim, where they each drafted 5 horses for their respective teams. We're going to continue to monitor those teams. They will earn points based on whether their horses finished first, second, or third in any race that they run in between now and the Belmont Stakes. Last week didn't go so well. Taba finished 8th in the Saudi Cup for Tim's Lost in the Fog team, and Verifying was 4th as the favorite in the Rebel for Dale's team victory. So no points awarded last week. Today, Tim has 2-year-old champion Forte in the Fountain of Youth. Dale has Cyclone Mischief in the same race and Charge It in the Gulfstream Park Mile. So we'll see who racks up some points, if either of them do, later today. But, guys, time to make your one final point of the show. Timmy, I'll come to you first. Give me your final point of the show.
Well, I want to congratulate Javier Castellano for winning the George Wolf Award that, signifies a career excellence and also what he contributes to the sport. No one's more deserving than him, and he joins a really good list of people of guys and gals that have won this thing. So congratulations to Javier.
Yep. Dale?
I'm going to stick with our theme a minute ago. I said Alex was a great kid. Alex rode for me. I liked him a lot. And if anybody can step up, we can help his family in any way. Let's do it. And both the kids and people out there, just remember, nothing is that important. Over any trouble or anything going on in your life, it will pass. This too shall pass. Just remember that.
Yep. Dale, well, I appreciate it. Timmy, thanks so much. A bit of a somber note to end the show, but I think certainly something that needs to be said and needs to be out there. And you know what to do. If you want to reach out to us here at the Horse Racing Radio Network, Mike at horseracingradio.net. Get in touch with us. We can help steer you in the right direction. Timmy, Dale, appreciate it. Good luck this weekend. Enjoy the races, and we'll talk next week. We'll do it all over again.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, if you want to hear it, if you have a topic that you want to hear Dale and Tim debate, email it to me, Mike at horseracingradio.net, and I'll work it in for you in the weeks ahead. I Ask They Answer is presented every week by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business. I will be back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
Racing fans, make plans to join us for one of the biggest days of the year, Santa Anita Handicap Day, this Saturday. It's an experience you'll never forget, as we'll not only have the 86th running of the Big Cap, presented by Yamava Resort and Casino at 1.25 miles, we'll have 3 other graded stakes, including one of America's most important Derby preps, the $400,000 San Felipe, the Grade 1 Frankie Kilroe Mile, and the Grade 2 Buena Vista. That's all on Saturday, and we'll also have a mandatory payout with an expected total pool of $3 million in our 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 jackpot. Come early. First post time for a 12-race card on Big Cap Day is at 12 noon. Also on Big Cap Day, XB Rewards members will receive a free Santa Anita hat courtesy of Yamava Resort and Casino, and will also have a craft beer festival, frontrunner buffet, chandelier room party, and our infield family fun zone. Just east of Pasadena in Arcadia, Santa Anita. It's the great race place.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Matthew.
There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Follow the road to the Kentucky Derby, plus have the latest breeding, racing, sales, industry news and analysis, plus entries, results, race replay videos, and much more at your fingertips with the Blood Horse Daily app on your phone. You can do that by going to bloodhorse.com/daily to download the app or to sign up now. That's bloodhorse.com/daily. A really busy show again here this morning, and my thanks to Dale and Tim for their thoughts and sentiments on all of those different topics we just talked about, but certainly the jockey issue, which is going to be in the forefront of many conversations, including right here on this show in the weeks ahead, and I think rightfully so. We need to look at this with the approach that we're going to have, some real change to this particular subject and this particular issue. All right, coming up next week, you'll hear more of our programming throughout the week, and you'll get a chance to check out brand new shows. You can do it at horseracingradio.net. You can also do it on every major podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media at HRN on Twitter and Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. Thanks to all my guests for making the show possible here this morning. For my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studio, and to Chauncey for handling all of our social media. I'm Mike Penna. Thanks for listening. Go Steelers.